few weekends. Not the show. Well, I'll do that. I'll
Low air.
Mary Lou, can you hear us?
Steel belt.
Can you hear us, Mary?
Yes, I can.
Great, okay. Wonderful. So I'd like to call the Town of Rochester Town Board meeting to order. I guess we can stand for the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So, can you do the roll call?
Councilman Coleman,
Here.
Councilwoman Dindal. Here. Councilwoman Smeethit,
Here.
Deputy Supervisor Allen.
I'm here. Okay, so just so everyone knows, I have resigned as a town board member as of 6:30 p.m. tonight, but I'm still the acting supervisor, so I'm going to start off by chairing the beginning of the meeting. And then I'm going to recuse myself from the meeting. So our first resolution is the acceptance of the agenda, and we need to make a couple of amendments. So, so I'm going to say what those amendments are, and then if I can have a motion for that. So I'd like to remove agenda items F, G, J, and M. And then I'd like to add a discussion of the reval proposal that we received. And then we were going to add a discussion about the a discussion about allowing virtual attendance.
I'll make that motion as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Okay, so I am, now that we've passed the agenda, I'm going to leave the table.
I'll make a motion to appoint Michael Coleman for chair of the meeting.
I second it.
All in favor? Aye. No,
Vote on that?
abstain.
Abstain. Can I abstain? Mary Lou, can I abstain?
If you abstain, you don't have enough votes.
Can I vote?
Yeah.
Aye.
All right. And then I would like to do an appointment of town supervisor. The town board appoints Aaron and Yuan to the office of town supervisor effective May 2nd, 2024 through December 31st. I have a second.
I second that.
Discussion? I want to say I think it's a great choice. I think Aaron's done a tremendous amount for this town, has shown real leadership, especially in the last few weeks, taking over. There are a lot of responsibilities, and I think it's a great choice for the town. So, Kate, can we do this as a roll call vote?
Yeah. Councilman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilman Dindal,
Aye.
Councilman Smeethit.
Aye.
Okay, that's a 3-0 vote.
It's the end of my tenure.
Do I need to make a motion?
So at this time, we will swear in Aaron and Alan as town supervisor.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties as town supervisor according to the best of your ability?
I do. Great. Oh, thank you. Okay, so we do have a full agenda, but I just want to say a couple words. I've been acting supervisor for 4 days now, and I knew it was a really big job, and now I know that it's a really big job, and it's an honor to be here at the head of the table and in the offices and working with our incredible staff and with our incredible community. And I really wholeheartedly want to do right by everyone in this town. And I want to just really, I'm hoping that that this is not just till the end of the year. And I'm hoping that we all can just do a really good job together. So I'm really excited for this very, very big position that I have just been appointed to. So thank you. So,
We have to appoint you back to chair.
nope, I'm the chair.
Just take it back. Yep. There.
Great, okay, so, thank you. We do have a full, agenda like we just discussed. Our next item on the agenda is a, request for a zoning change. So I'd like to, invite the applicants from 40 Old Mine Road to, come to the table, to address the board. Oh,
Hello, board, I'm David Barra. This is my partner, Morton. We are also captain on this. So, yes, we purchased this parcel 56 from auction years ago, and the listing clearly stated the property as class 311 residential vacant land. We're familiar with this property because it sits right across from our business, our shop. The last use, maybe unsanctioned use of this property was a trailer on it, which we had to remove after we purchased this property. So it was, historically at least a residential or used as a residential lot. The lot is 1 acre. Just slightly over an acre, which I think falls below the development standards for industrial use in the town. Minimum is 1.5 acre, if I'm reading this correctly.
Yeah.
But also this document states that principal permitted uses within the industrial districts are home occupation class 3, accessory uses home occupation class 1 and class 2, special uses 1 family dwellings. So even if the board were to deny our request for zoning change or moving forward toward that direction, I think there's precedent here to approve the building permit for what we want to do, which is a lovely little house, a lovely little 2-bedroom.
And we're not even sure we have to change to that, because reading the, whatever you want to call these, it clearly states that a small residence is applicable for the industrial, for our zoning. So we're not quite sure why. So it's denied in why the building.
This lot sits at the edge of the industrial. It's kind of sandwiched between the hamlet and industrial zone as well. It's not.
So can I just ask a clarifying question? Or
Sure.
are you saying you had a permit denied?
No,
Oh.
but when we applied for the permit, that's when we discovered this whole thing. Oh, you're zoned for, you need to
Right.
get a zoning, we need to get a zoning change
Hmm.
for this. And I came from this department. So it was somebody-
Pre-existing non-conforming, can't they?
Your predecessor, I believe.
So for some reason, I'm not able to connect to my, I wanted to pull up the schedule. So the reason why you're applying for a zoning change is because you want to build a house on this parcel.
Which it sort of says that it's allowed,
I was gonna say, so it sounds like you can do
Right,
it with your
but-
current zone.
but we were advised to
Well,
do this.
it's a special use, so you have to go before the planning board to build it. Yeah, so, I mean, there's still a process in place for building on a vacant lot, for building a one-family dwelling. You would have to both get a variance, because if the lot is less than 1.5 acres, you would need to get a variance to build something
In an industrial zone.
in an industrial,
So,
because it's 1.5 acre.
which creates another issue. So by creating an industrial zone, the state's zoned out that piece of land to do anything with it.
If you can get a variance to build something on a lot that's smaller.
Okay,
So there's that's the vehicle that you could use. And then, but in addition to that, one-family dwellings require a special use permit in the industrial zone. It's not a principal permitted use. So you would need to go before the planning board and get a special use permit to build a home. So, but it sounds like that's what you'd like to do. And so what you're
Build a-
doing, build a home, and instead of,
We don't care if it's zone residential or industrial.
right, and instead of going the route of getting a variance and a special use permit, you wanted to see first about changing the zoning, the underlying zoning of the parcel to build the home.
Whichever
what gets
direction
us
seems.
from A to B, what gets us from A to B with the least amount of time and problems and this.
Is there anything else that you could share with us about the parcel itself while we have you here?
It's a small parcel, rather small parcel, but we did manage to design a structure that complies with the setbacks. It perks really well, so we've been told.
The engineer said it's the best perk he's seen in use,
Right.
or whatever that means.
About half of the property is kind of on a steep slope, so it doesn't really lend itself to use.
It's at the end of Old Line Road, if you're familiar with the road.
See that. And can I just ask you a question? You guys said it was less than 1.5 acres? Okay, because on their application, it has 2.8. I don't know if you guys filled out this application or if this was done, is that your handwriting? Or either of your handwriting?
It's not my hand.
That's my wife's handwriting.
Okay,
She's been writing for me for the past several weeks.
gotcha.
So I'm not sure where she. But no, it's 1.1.
Okay.
Can I ask, the process for changing zoning is just through this board as opposed to the planning permit? So the question is how to get you approved with the least amount of.
But also for us, a zoning district change is a legislative act, and we can't just rezone a parcel for the benefit of the applicant. There has to be underlying reasons that we would want to show that parcel should be in one of our zones so that we don't want to spot zone just to benefit the applicant. So
I'm sorry. Can you remind me, you want to rezone it to what district? To Hamlet?
Hamlet,
And are other Hamlet districts, is it surrounded by other properties that have Hamlet?
Yes, Hamlet on one side of the property, industrial on the other.
Okay, then it wouldn't be spot zoning if you're increasing a Hamlet district.
even if it's just, you're saying if it's contiguous, then
Yes. Then it's not gonna be spot zoning because you're just extending that district.
Expands them.
But you would need to do this by local law and you would need to, send it to our planning board and the county planning board for their recommendations. Either way, whether it's a special use permit under industrial to have the house or a Hamlet district, there are some steps that have to be taken. I think probably a rezone, if the board is in favor of going that way, is probably a little bit easier.
Yeah, because you just have the public hearing.
And then it would be a principal permitted use, so you could just apply for a
Is it
building permit.
the
If we-
Well, you would still have, let me get in the right.
Well, if we
district
need a
here.
variance.
Let me see what we need for a minimum in a Hamlet district. Give me 1 minute.
so is the SBL of the parcel you're looking to change 76.10-1-9.300?
Yes.
Okay, because I think we had. So that one is 1 acre.
Okay, and in a Hamlet district, you only need 1 acre, so he wouldn't have to go to zoning board at all, as long as you can meet all your setback variances and things.
Well, yeah, and it also wouldn't have requirement for special use.
Right.
And I've been told this doesn't matter, but it seems to matter to me in that we purchased the property as residential vacant land from, we bought it at a tax auction. And
So
that's what it was listed at.
the county sold it to us as residential.
But I've been told that it doesn't matter because, well, this is blue and this is pink, and blue and pink, it's clearly different colors. It's like, okay, well, what defines that? Why is what the county sold us not supersede what the blue and pink is, whatever the blue and pink is? And follow me,
And what year did you purchase the?
3 years ago?
Okay, I was wondering before previous board changes.
So those classifications on the county aren't necessarily connected to zoning. There's a history of parcels and subdivisions of parcels and previous uses, and that's what a lot of those county classifications are based off of.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily, if there was never an industrial use on the parcel, it might not reflect that for the county.
And it's also possible that when the county foreclosed on the property, it was zoned differently and then the zoning changed in between their foreclosure and their sale to you. That's possible. But we have to go by what our zoning specifies.
Yeah.
It may have just been a mistake from the county. I don't know. But it's our zoning that determines the allowed uses, not whatever the county had.
Okay.
And I think just for us, that wouldn't necessarily be the only, I think it's more, it is a factor, but it's not the only factor that this board would use to make a decision about whether or not to rezone a
Okay.
parcel. So is there anything else that the board would like to ask or any information you'd like from the applicants at this time? It looks like you brought a lot. I don't know if there's anything you want to share with
I have
us.
full set of plans here.
Oh, for the house.
Yeah, for the
Okay,
house.
okay.
Is Captain Omnipotent a business? Is that?
Captain Omnipotent is the business, yes. Also, an old, overly powered.
But this is separate from that metric. This is not connected to the business,
The purchase, the property purchase is,
but the residential structure is not connected. to this.
well, we're building it through our business building. Yes.
But for residential use.
So-
Yes.
so-
It's for
And would that be long-term residential use?
yes.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
No, me neither.
Okay, so the next steps for the board are, so when we receive a petition to rezone, we can decide to take no action, or we can decide to consider the zoning requests, and then the next step for us would be to schedule a public hearing. We could do that today, or we could do that at our workshop.
Do you have a written local law? You need a written local law before you can schedule the public hearing.
Yeah, I was saying we would, yeah, sorry, I was trying to say we could decide that we're gonna move forward.
Okay,
And then we wouldn't necessarily be scheduling the public hearing tonight, but we would.
Great.
When we say we're moving forward, that's what we're moving towards.
And how can we expedite? Any way that we can help you?
That sounds out of our hands.
Yeah, at this point, it would be the board deciding whether or not to consider the request. And then we would do a draft law, as our attorney just said. And then once that, we've considered that draft, we would schedule a public hearing, at which you would be aware, and bounding property owners would be notified. And there would be notice posted at the public hearing. And then based on the initial public hearing, it might be held open, or it might be closed. It could take, at least, I'd say 2 months, because we have to get referral. So if the board decides to move forward, it would be a minimum of 2 months before the board would make a decision. It could be more than that.
Okay,
For the other process.
For them, if they wanted to do it. But yeah, the question that we have isn't about if we didn't do it, it would be about if we are considering it.
okay.
Okay? So does the board, do you want to talk about this in discussion? Or are you wanting to move forward or not consider this?
I think we should consider it. The fact that they bought it and it's listed as residential to me seems like a pretty compelling reasoning, and that it's bordering. I don't see a reason not to consider.
Yeah, I'm not.
Okay, so I'll let you know when you'll be notified when we schedule the public hearing, or if there's anything that comes up that the board wants clarification on
Okay.
before.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Leave the chairs, put them back.
sure, you can leave them. That'd be great. Thank you. Okay. Our next agenda item is if we could welcome John Messerschmidt to the table, Chair of the Environmental Conservation Commission. And we're here, John has a request for the board for an ecological inventory. Is that right? Or-
Yeah, are you guys familiar with the watershed reserve? Have you seen so you haven't seen the proposal then?
Oh.
The watershed reserve is, it's not an official name, I don't think. Okay, you know the solar panels behind the Rainbow Diner? Yeah, on the other side of that hill is a forest with, I don't know, I've seen maybe 3 or 4 old growth trees there. And I'm guessing that they're probably the only old growth trees in the entire Rondout Valley. And there's also a watershed. Chris Hewitt brought up, I don't know, a year or 2 ago, calling it a park, and there was some pushback on that. But I don't think that's really appropriate. I think it's more of a preserve. We just want to preserve. First of all, we want to find out what's there. We know that there's a couple of old growth trees, and on the other side of the Millbrook, I heard somebody told me that there's a bunch of them, old sycamores that are probably 3 feet in diameter. What we did is we found a guy who can get an inventory for that, 50 pages. Significant trees, land use history, so it would be of use to the historical society. Cultural landscape, exotic species, 50 pages, $1,800 for a full inventory, just to see what's there. I think that probably we could even sell it to the OSI, you know, for permanent land use so that nobody can log it. And the ECC, we would like to use it for ourselves, for study. There's a lot of invasive there, but I know that there's some really valuable stuff. I went there one time and I was the last one of 7 people trampling through the wetlands, and somehow this spotted turtle made it through all 7 of us, and they're rare. And we didn't step on it because you can't see it until you're right on top of it. So there's some valuable stuff there. And what we want to do is just find out how valuable it really is. So I'm requesting $1,800 from your budget to hire this guy to give us this study.
I have a question.
Sure.
What qualifies as an old tree?
It would be the original trees. It's a good question. What we have out here, they're about 12 inches in diameter.
Yeah.
They're like third successional, like before the Europeans came 200 years ago and cut down every last tree in the entire area that they could find. And then more trees grew up to replace them. And then the farmers came by and cut those down. And then these hardwoods that we have right now are the latest version of forest, and it's heavily degraded at this point. So the old growth trees are the big giant ones.
They survived the first round.
They survived the first round because it sits in a ravine and there's a river at the bottom of it. It took 5 people to wrap their arms around this one tree.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Big chunks.
Oh yeah, and also Marbletown, they have the Osterhout property that the OSI bought. So they're turning that, like, you know, so we have to keep up with it. Marbletown, you know? Like this could be like, if you think 10 years from now, this could be extremely, if we could protect this for 10 years, it could be very valuable to the community.
Well, it's town land,
It is.
and I agree with wanting to preserve it. I walked on that property. It's a beautiful piece of property.
It's beautiful.
I think if we want to consider that as a board and look at whether or not we want to put that into some kind of easement, that's fine. Is there any advantage to having a study like this? It's not an insignificant cost. I mean, you can see the trees, right? It takes 5 people to be around them. Do we really, does that help you with any of those steps? Or is there something else even the ECC might use those funds for?
I think it's valuable to know what else is there. What kind of other animals, what other kind of turtles and amphibians. It's a unique wetland because it must come from streams, springs, because stuff starts up here and it goes downhill. It's not a flat area. It's on the side of a hill. It's also a cultural history as well. You can tell by what's there. When I was talking to him, because there's multiflora rose and barberry, he says that that's a sign that it was used for livestock originally. After, you know, somehow they didn't cut those trees down. And maybe there's stone walls on there. I don't know. There could be other ancient, Indian artifacts or something. I don't know. But there's also a property right next door to that that's for sale right now. Right up against 209. And it's where those cabins are. On the other side of
Already
it.
sold.
What is already sold?
I think so.
So that's valuable land on 209, but as it hits the edge of that, it goes down into that ravine, the same as the preserve there. If they could sell that to OSI as well. And the town, well, we would get the money, the town would get the money for this property, but if they could somehow split that up and just make that forever wild, the habitat, I think, is very important to the earth, to us.
I like the idea of getting more information. I know it's not cheap, but if it's about ultimately having to advocate for some sort of label or protection from it, or to sell it to OSI, I imagine having this information up front is gonna help that. Sounds like something we're gonna have to do eventually, it sounds.
Yeah, do you guys remember when Chris first brought this to us? Was there funding available for watershed?
Well, that was originally, as John mentioned, the original proposal was to create a public access park that had a trail. And that there would be like a bridge over the, is it the Millbrook?
Over the Millbrook.
But this is so there was funding. We applied for the county ARPA park funding that's what's funding our bathroom. That was proposed to be used to this, parcel for park development, but we opted to do the bathroom project. So there are, from time to time, there is funding available for, it's possible that if that's the route we wanted to go, is to try to find some funding that would help offset a study or something like that. We could investigate that. If is that what you were?
It kind of like, because if we were to apply for grants to preserve this or make it a walkable park, a study like this would be helpful when we do that, is my thought process with this, to explain exactly what we want to preserve and having an inventory of it. That being said, I'd like to reach out to Chris and see if he knows of any funding available. He's the watershed guy. I remember when he came to the presentation, if he knows of anything. But I'm open for discussions. Funding this, we want a discussion at the workshop or we want to schedule discussing it.
John, you specifically are looking to engage with a specific person.
Yeah, an
So
expert. Yeah,
yeah.
he's actually in New Hampshire or Vermont or something. So he would,
I think Saratoga Springs. On his
Saratoga
website.
Springs. I think he lives there, but he's I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It's a distance for him to travel. But he did the reason he's giving us a good price for it is because he did a Third Thursday for us presentation, which you're welcome to see. He's a genius. He knows everything about this stuff. And $1,800 seemed like a whole lot of money for a town to invest just to find out what's really there, see how valuable it is. There could be some other stuff in there that's valuable.
Seems like it's priceless, actually,
Yeah, it really does.
potentially.
Any other thoughts or questions for John?
I'd be curious if he has any work projects we could look at to kind of see the type of work. If you want to reach out and see if he has like a sample. Stuff.
Sure. Okay.
I think it would be valuable to have him write something up as to what he's gonna do and what the cost is, write up a proposal for us.
Yeah, I have that.
Oh, beautiful.
I actually gave this to Mike. So if somebody if you want to take that and copy it.
I just want to say on a historian level, we have no records regarding like land to this extent. And I think that would be a fantastic add to have with our records. You know, we have a lot on historic farms and you know, like what they cultivated at some point, but this is a different study. And I do think that would be fascinating to add to the historic records that we do have.
Yeah, 50 pages with drawings, I mean, maps, I mean, like this seems to be very, very thorough.
Well, thank you, John,
Okay,
and thank you for your dedication.
all right.
I
Thank
know
you,
that,
thank
I
you.
know that you care a lot about that parcel and.
Yeah, I do, because I've been there, and you guys are all welcome to come as well. It's a beautiful, beautiful, there's so many different eco. Huh?
I've lived here my whole life.
Well, let us know, we'll do a field trip out there on a
Toddler
Saturday.
friendly.
Well, you know,
It's not-
It is
She
cheap.
loves hills. It's fine.
We built a trail, we couldn't get through the wetland because I don't wanna go through that, but it's a loop trail except for the wetland. But there's a ridge there, there's so many different ecosystems there, that, is very.
You can tell me my toddler will destroy them, that's fine. She's.
I also want to say that it is not open
It's not open to the public,
access.
and we're not
I just-
intending it to be open to the public.
I'm saying that for the public. We're talking about how amazing this
Everybody
is.
wants to go there. Everybody wants to.
Yeah, it's not open, for public access. Okay.
Except for some-
If you do visit, no more than 2 board members at a time, or it's a public meeting.
Correct.
We can make a
Maybe it
special
should be a
meeting that
public
we're
meeting.
going there, right?
Just be in contact with
intent.
the
Oh, yeah.
be in contact with the ECC and we'll set you up and we'll go out there and we'll walk around. We'll hug that tree.
Yeah, I don't have my diary. We need at least 5 people.
We need 5 people though.
There is a lot of Native American culture there too, so we're fascinated to see if anything like that comes up.
Go up to us, board member with all 5 of us.
And a
Can only
public
do 2 at
meeting.
a time though.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great.
Right.
Great. Well, I think,
So much.
thank you, John. So I think next steps are, do you feel comfortable reaching out to Michael and seeing if he has a work
A sample?
sample?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And then you can send that to me, or you can send that to Kate and ask that that gets circulated to the board. And then I feel like there was one other thing that we said that we were curious. Was there another?
You asked for the proposal, but we have that.
Okay.
Oh, I said I was gonna reach out to Chris Hewitt to see if
Oh,
there was of any
oh,
funding. If
so
if there's like
funding.
a small grant to fund this, I'm happy to
Okay.
write it for the town for it. If you guys allow me to write
Okay.
it for us, I'm happy to do that. So.
Great, so our next, if you could get that, if you could see if Michael Gage is able to get that to us before our next meeting, which I think is going to be in 2 weeks, so we have to reschedule the one that's scheduled for next.
Yeah,
week.
time is sort of the essence because he wants to catch it in the spring, so.
Okay. Yeah, if he could,
It's kind of too late now, but we'll see.
oh, okay,
We'll see.
okay,
I would ask too, if he knows if there's funding, DEC or any funds available.
Okay, I think he's actually at Fuller's Volunteers. I have the thing on there.
okay, great. Thank you,
Okay.
John. Thank you
All right,
so
thanks a
much.
lot. Thank you.
Okay. So moving along, I believe I have the supervisor's financial report and I am filing it with the clerk right now. And then I brought, copies. Did I do I do that right? January to present?
Yeah.
Okay. I brought copies.
Do you want me to hold on to this in a minute?
Yeah, thank you, Kate.
Or Michael.
No, they're, highway and. Okay, and then for April 2024 financials. Oh, that should be a period. So general fund revenue was $80,918.94. Highway fund revenue was $49,706. $1,000.05. The total expenditures for April from general fund was $184,000, $184,030.16. Highway fund, $133,930.30. Street lighting fund, $440.01. Capital fund, $54,833.50. Ambulance fund had 0 expenditures, and the escrow fund was $1,293.40. And then the abstract totals that we paid, that we approved on the 25th are listed there. Supervisor's correspondence report. I sent an email that had a bunch of correspondence attached. I wanted to highlight that the County Agricultural District Inclusion Committee received 1 application to be included in the County Ag District from our town. So I forwarded that to you. We will be getting notice that the county will be recommending to the state that that parcel be included in the state certified ag district this month. In other correspondence, let's see, just realized I'm in a meeting. I spoke with Jill today, and our dog control officer, and I wanted to highlight that there's a email that I sent that's a PDF, that's the truck cap for dog control. Jill's putting in a request that we purchase a new truck cap. It's essential for transporting dogs. So she is requesting, and I said I would investigate if there's a way for the town or multiple towns to fund that purchase. That would be proper, not her property. She uses her personal property. The vehicle is her own personal vehicle. So, Mary Lou, I don't know if that's something that you would look into, or if I should look into in terms of how we would do that.
If you're using several towns to do that, we'd
So,
have to
yeah.
enter into some intermunicipal agreement and maybe have one town that actually owns it and insures it, and the other towns contribute. We'd have to look into that, but
Yeah, and then there maybe have to be something about, it wouldn't be a lease, it would be, I guess it would be like having a town-owned cell phone or a town-owned computer or something like that.
yeah, I know that several years ago in another town, what I worked on, where one town purchased a vehicle and the other town contributed. I can go way, 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 way back in my files and try and see just how we did that.
It's just a cap.
Yeah, but they're about $4,000, so we have to get 3 quotes. And have to find money in the budget. And all that. So we have to, we have to be thoughtful.
How many towns does she provide?
Well, we spoke, mostly it's Rochester and Wawarsing that the most work happens in, and then Rosendale, Esopus, and New Paltz. Yeah, but the most work is in Rochester and I wanted to also highlight for the board that there is correspondence regarding a Route 209 closure for movie filming that's going to happen on, I think, the 26th. No, not the 26th. I can't access. Well, the date is not on this correspondence. So I'll have to forward that. I'll see if I can figure that out and come back to it. Then I think I'm trying to think if there's anything I wanted to say about the correspondence. Oh, we did receive an applicant for the ECC. So I put that in the correspondence, but I'd like to put, we're gonna be discussing vacancies, but that sort of came in between our discussion of vacancies. So I wanted the board to be aware that we have someone ready for that, and I think that's about it, unless there's anything you guys have any questions about in that. So upcoming meetings, we're going to be talking about that later. Events, I think what I'm aware of will be covered in liaison reports. For upcoming agendas, I think I had hoped to have a better sense of what our agenda topics would be for the workshop meeting, but I feel like we might have to discuss that as we go throughout tonight. And so that brings us to attorney for the town report. Mary Lou, did anything come up that you wanted to report to the board?
No, I'm working with the building department on one property that will probably have to go to Supreme Court in Kingston to get someone to stop doing something they're not supposed to. Obviously, I don't want to discuss that right here, but the building department's doing some further investigation on it, and after I hear back from them, I'll write an attorney's memo to all of you. Might be a couple weeks.
Okay, thank you. Kate, town clerk, tax collector.
All right, so for town clerk, we are just finishing up the monthly reports. I'm waiting on the department monthly income reports to verify that with our records before I turn that money over to the supervisor. On records management, our building department records have been converted into the DocuWare software, where they can now be retrieved by the building department. Alyssa, Courtney, and I sat in on a training on how to do the retrieval and how to start setting up when we do start scanning in new material, how we can save it. And the large screen scanner, it should be connected by next week. The engineer has been working with Fish to get the apps on the Toshiba and onto the wide scanner. So that should be up and running in the next week or two. And from that point on, the building department is going to continue on the files that have not been digitized yet. They're going to start that process. And once they're done, we're going to move on to the next department, which will probably be planning board. Since they're in the same building, it'll be a little easier because Courtney's kind of going to take on that task over here. And so we're moving forward with that. And I'm hoping by summer, between planning board and assessor's office, we can have a majority of those records digitized by then. I have received 2 resignations, one from Aaron Anawan as town council, the other from Alex Genty for the highway department. As tax collector to date, we've collected $7,314,579 with a little more than 1.3 million left to collect. Reminder notices went out last week to residents with unpaid parcels. The last day to collect taxes is June 3rd because by law we actually collect till June 1st, but it falls on a Saturday, so we go to the next business day, which is June 3rd. The county has started the process of the new tax software program that they've been discussing for the last couple of years. So I will be sitting in on that next week to learn more about that. And we hope to be up and running by this fall. There is a little more of a cost in our current program, but far less than what we were projected with last year. They had told us it would be $3,000 a year, and it's looking like it'll be less than $300. So that is a good note. And the Ulster County tax foreclosure online auction will be held on May 8th at 10 a.m. for anybody that's interested. We do have the parcel booklet in the clerk's office. You also can find a lot of that information online, and that's for properties that are going into foreclosure for Ulster County. anyone is able to auction, to bid on the property. That's all I have for now.
Great. The highway superintendent report. So Jeff wanted to report that the Fantine Kill Bridge, there will be a bridge starting May 13th. The Fantine Kill Bridge will be closed until further notice. That's on Sampsonville, so it's a county, this is a county road. The highway superintendent will be providing more information regarding the detour route after having discussions with the county, which I believe he was having today. So the highway department will be posting a memo probably tomorrow with details about that. And they've been in touch with this, the bus routes also. And then I said that we would post that information about the detour route as soon as I received it. We can post that on the town website. Department updates and liaison reports. Kate, do you want to start?
Sure. HPC is working on updating the historic resource reconnaissance survey. That is an inventory of all our historic properties in the town. They are driving around doing updates, seeing if there's any structures that are no longer there. The Allergerville and the Clove Hamlet Talk series will take place on May 19th at 1 p.m. at the Allergerville Firehouse. If any of you have not been able to attend a Hamlet Talk series, the HPC is putting together different events within the hamlets of the town of Rochester, where different people from the area come and talk about their experiences living in that hamlet during the time, family lore of what happened many generations prior. I think this is going to be a very interesting hamlet talk, because Allergerville is a historic district. There's a lot of information that goes along with Allergerville. I find that will be pretty fascinating. June 1st is the Ash Tree Arts Festival that will be held on the rail trail. If anyone knows of any local artists interested, I know Deb Menbach is still looking for a handful of artists. June 23rd, they're looking to do the Membacchus and Tabasco series, and that will take place up at the Rochester 2 Firehouse. I just want to say, as far as Friends of Historic Rochester, we will be opening the last Saturday of each month from May to October from 10 to 1 if anyone is interested in coming to the museum. And we will also be hosting a History Rocks fundraiser at the museum on July 27th, and there will be more information to follow with that. And that's all I have to know.
History Rocks, not History of Rocks.
Yes, History Rocks. We're having music going and the museum open and some food.
That's a lot. I do not have a lot. That only that there's a court meeting on May 9th to discuss the security concerns of the court.
I have one thing that I wanted to highlight in correspondence. That's one of your, is the Little Ones Learning Center is having an event this Saturday. And in the correspondence, I was wanting the board to know that I authorized the constables to do traffic control for that, because they have to cross the street for parking, and it's on 209, but that's a library, I guess, sort of.
I didn't even know that. Okay, yeah, that is. Thank you. Glad to know that.
Okay, neat. Elder Care, they had one call that was on the further reaches of town where family members couldn't get a hold of a relative here for a few days. All turned out to be okay. I think Constable Miller said it was her call connect. There was something wrong where her phone was not working. So they did a wellness check, all ended up being well, and her phone got fixed. Hold on. Okay. So the Town of Rochester Rec Department would like to thank everyone who's volunteered for Earth Day this year, as well as Fulton County Legislator Chris Hewitt for making delicious pizzas in the brick oven out back for all the volunteers. Also, thank you to Robin Clearwater from Robin's Cookie Closet for donating Earth Day themed cookies for all who helped. And thanks to the Town of Rochester Highway Department for picking up all of the bags on the side of the road. There were 64 bags and 32 tires and 1 chair collected this year. Great job, everyone. The rec department will be holding a spring fling luncheon on Friday, May 10th at the Harold Lipton Community Center. Please call at 845-626-2115 extension 1 to make a reservation. Friday, May 17th, the Ulster County Office of the Aging will be sending someone to the Harold Lipton Community Center to do a presentation on estate planning from a legal standpoint at 1 p.m. And I'm just going to say this. For any seniors interested in this, you must sign up with the Office of the Aging, not at the rec center. So you can call the Office of the Aging at 845-340-3456. If you take a look around the community center, you'll notice some beautiful wind chimes hanging around that were made by the Town of Rochester After School Program. A thank you to After School Counselor Lisa Babcock for facilitating this project. We love them. They will be sent home with the kids as Mother's Day gifts. And lastly, line dancing has resumed on Wednesday mornings at 11. Get your dancing shoes on. We are very excited to have Goldie back. You do not have to register to be a part of the class. Walk-ins are welcome and the class is free to attend. And one more note is that you will also notice in the back corner of the community center, there is an incubator incubating eggs with the kids in the after school program. Thank you to Bethany Denon for setting this all up. The children are participating every step of the way by observing and journaling the process. We hope to have chicks by the beginning of next week. Super exciting. Check out the Facebook page for updates. I will say when I was here for the rec center's meeting, we went in and we candled. We got to look at the eggs and I saw one of their heartbeats, which was very fun. So that's them. And then the housing committee is right here. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to read them. So they met and during their meeting, they spoke. Still here, so I'll just ask. They spoke about. They mostly caught up on the tasks and homework that they assigned to everyone from the month before for things going on with the housing site inventory and check-ins on that. Their meeting with the person from a previous board of another town on their housing committee went very well, and they are starting to make their recommendation to us about STRs for the cap again this year, since that is due. We have to set that in August. For their recommendation to us after they're doing some homework and studying on and getting some information from the code enforcement office. And they've also been reviewing some of our red lines on the zoning code changes, so that if they have any recommendations for like the affordable housing section or anything, since we're still in the process of reviewing that, to bring some to us if they find any recommendations they'd like to make. And that's what I got.
Okay. I'll be fast. Constabulary, 14 direct calls for service, 8 neighbor quality of life complaints, 3 resident traffic complaints, 3 environmental complaints, 1 new building department violation, 0 new court cases open, 9 court proceedings remain open, 0 closed. Charlotte already mentioned the elder care outreach.
Yeah.
Great. I think it's great too that people are checking out and looking out for one another. EMS Fire District, so Supervisor Allen and I were able to attend the KFAS yearly dinner and awards. It's really great to see them honoring their local members, local members of KFAS, and talking about some of the saves that they had, CPR saves, and just really the value that they bring to this community. There were also, which I was not aware of, some, I don't even know what you call them, some awards for jokes, which were very hilarious and included small tokens of appreciation. So it was really nice to see, and we obviously have appreciate everything they do for the town. Charter Spectrum, there was a slight issue that we talked about last time with the contract, which didn't impact or change any of the costs associated with it. It was just the way the numbers were reflected. So we reviewed that. We talked about it at the last meeting. That's now been finalized, signed, sent back, and a fully executed copy of that. So we'll keep on top of them and get updates about when the actual project will kick off on those roads. Parks, the only thing I still have not heard on fence quotes. I don't know if that's still something that's being worked, but we were going to get quotes for 3 fences, transfer station, back behind the community center, and down by the ball field over there. I also know there was some discussion about possibly getting the dumpster to address the rubble in the back here. See if we can get that removed so that there's more space. And nothing on the CBA.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess technically I don't have any departments that I'm the liaison to. But I don't have formal reports, but I can do a couple of updates. Some of the stuff is just regular business. The Agricultural Advisory Committee has been meeting. I'm going to ask, I know that they have comments on the zoning code that I need to request. They also have asked if they are allowed to do fundraising. I don't think Mary Lou has caught that, but so that's something that I'm curious to hear what they're thinking, but also I have to, there's just, I think it has to be pretty specific if they are going to do that. And the ECC, we heard from John about that today. They've been working still on pollinator, promoting pollinator gardens. I'm honestly blanking. You guys are gonna have to help me out the next couple months, keeping track of everything. I'm trying to think if there's anything. I know the planning board's busy.
This Saturday's plastics.
This Saturday's plastic collection that the ECC is hosting. I know there's more. Oh, I have some notes on it. It's not like I started a new job this week.
We can skip them.
The ECC, well, I have it as a discussion item. The ECC might be proposing, there have been a couple of tire dumping incidents that they were telling me about, and had a discussion about whether, like, what we could do, and they'd like to propose, they're going to be making some proposals for some laws that they think we should adopt that could allow the town to do something about some of that. But right now, I would just say I don't have much to report unless you guys have specific questions, and we are going to discuss liaison reports and liaison appointments later in the agenda. Okay, so we can move on to the public comment portion of the meeting. We don't have anyone participating on Zoom. Is there anyone present from the public that would like to address the board tonight?
Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So board member time. Is there anything that the board members would like to bring up during this time?
So I do just want to bring up one thing, kind of to piggyback off of Michael's report about the park fences. Over the past weekend, I was at a birthday party there, and the one fence that like borders the actual park that faces the road is just peeled back with nothing blocking it. My toddler ran underneath that part into where a car could have been coming during the party. I was luckily there, but I have a toddler that I have to stay by. Not all parents stay next to their kid if they're older, so just if something can be remedied or even cautions to be put up so that it's not as easy while we're waiting to repair it for a child to run out, because it's right in between where those rocks are by the sandbox, and there was a car parked along there, so luckily, like, no one's coming, and there was cars parked, and I was able to catch my kid, but I don't want any type of accident to happen to anyone's kid while they're playing.
I wonder if children at play sign put up.
I just mean like something to, like, while we're waiting for the event, yeah,
Right.
but that also, I think we should, I don't think there's one, isn't there one there? Or there used to be one there, I think, at some point.
I'm
maybe,
talking
but
like the big.
like the
traffic
yeah,
signs.
there's not. I don't know, weird memory of that, but yeah, that would also be helpful, but yeah, just to keep that side safer so that, you know, kids can run out into traffic easily would be appreciated. It's clear that, like, they clearly moved what was broken in the fence, but just nothing's blocking where the fence was.
Were you about to?
The only thing I want to get more clarification on, I know last meeting, we were talking about pump that broke, the tow path. And my understanding is there's been multiple issues with the pump since been replaced. I just want to, as a board, I think we need to figure out what the procedures are for dealing with things like that. If it's happening that frequently, I think we need to investigate because it's not an insignificant cost. We obviously want to make sure that we're addressing that. So I don't know what we can do. I'm interested to see if we can set up some processes that can monitor that situation and make sure we understand what's going on. So we don't have to keep replacing the pump, or we can address the issue. I don't know if it's been addressed at this point.
So the update that I have is that the entire electric box has been replaced. It does seem like there was something faulty going on with the original electric box that was there. I'm planning on following up, but I agree that we should have some process about that type of issue, which hopefully doesn't happen that often, but yeah. I had a couple of things that I wanted to share, I guess, with the public and the board. I believe I forwarded this correspondence, but on April 19th, I believe, there was a waste management truck that leaked hydraulic fluid from Clay Hill, I think. I don't went all the way to 209.
Clay Hill, and I went up.
Up Minnewaska
Right,
Trail.
yeah. with
Yeah.
Minnewaska Trail.
So it, they worked, so those aren't all town roads. There's a portion of town road that had that leak happen. There was an outside group that was hired to do the cleanup, and the cleanup has caused some issues that are out in the public. I think that the board is aware of. And at this point, it does seem like on the town roads and that what the dust that was on them has been cleaned up. I know that the company swept that area, and then I was told that the highway department has swept that area, I think 3 times this week. And that as far as it seems, it's completely cleaned up. But if, you know, anyone has any questions about that, they can contact my office, or if you contact the clerk's office, can be forwarded to me, and we can see what this company, like what has been going on with how they're addressing some of the damage that had been caused. The second thing I wanted to address is it was the talk of the town, literally, is there is a huge population of spongy moths in town right now that they're everywhere. They're little black caterpillar that's everywhere. And one thing that has come up, I've never experienced it like this before, but they cause a rash And this is impacting a lot of people. And in fact, I heard that like school recess was closed.
Yeah, they weren't allowed outside for recess. They canceled their school sports.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible. at
So
my-
I don't know what, so I'm gonna, look into if there's any, there's a lot online about what you can do, but it is important if you're outside in the garden to cover up and wear gloves because, it does cause, like, I've seen some pretty bad reactions to it. And at this point, there's no county plan. The only thing I think would be spraying pesticides, and I feel like that is not something, that should be taken lightly. So I just wanted to say that we're aware and are trying to see if there's any, helpful actions that can be taken. Or if, they will sort of pupate quickly and that the issue will sort of be resolved soon. But it's a very, very high population. I've never had this. I mean, I've been working outside in this county since 2008, and I've never had this before. So
Are they gonna turn into butterflies?
moths.
Oh,
Spongy moss. Tree.
I saw them all over today, and it's like, I'm sure they're harmless.
Not good for trees.
Yeah, really bad for trees. And people, okay. Okay, so moving on to, was there anything else?
I just want to say, I forgot to mention this earlier, I have a small amount of free passes to the Mohawk Preserve that will be good until May 12th. They're free for anybody that wants to come in and pick them up. I probably have another 25 left, and they are only good for another 10 days, but if anybody's interested in checking out the preserve, we have free passes.
Okay,
I wanted to talk about my proposed resolution, but I think we can talk about that later, right?
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so resolutions, action on the minutes. Does anyone want to?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented by the town.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. Okay, C. Kate, did you have a number for me?
Oh, yes. So the amount of donations, cash donations from the Easter egg hunt in the amount of $27. Martha Smith, $25 from the Easter egg hunt. Alice Gray, $25 from the adult paint class. The Michael Aramis Foundation in the amount of $2,500, and that goes to our summer program. And St. Pauli Textile in the amount of $94.04.
Kate, what was the Michael?
Michael Aramis Foundation in the amount of $2,500.
Okay,
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained. Okay, so E, we can, I guess, have a quick discussion about this and then, have the resolution. So I don't believe we are going to have a quorum on May 9th. Correct. So we want to reschedule to a time when we can have a quorum.
Is a quorum 3 people?
Yeah. So I think we have to look at the week after.
We could take the Wednesday, since the housing committee is via Zoom again, if we need to. Because I think it's still signed out for the building, so the building should be available on Wednesday. I can do the 15th.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that the Town of Rochester Town Board reschedules our May 9th, 2024 workshop, okay, meeting for May 15th, 2024 at 6:30 PM at the Harold Lipton Community Center. And
For the town.
and request that the town clerk circulate attendance. Have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain. Okay, so I'm requesting that we table F and G because they're dependent on doing the environmental, the EAF, which I did not have a chance to prepare for you guys. I was working on it last minute and my computer was crashing, so. I think we can put this on our workshop agenda. And so that would be both, the G would be, you know, passing the law, to do that single parcel zoning change. So, that brings us to H. Authorizing the installation of 2 new stop signs to be installed at the intersection of Voice Mill and Dunn Farm Road. So I'll go ahead and make this motion and we can have a discussion. If there's a second.
I'll second.
Well, okay, I'll read it, yeah, okay. Whereas the town highway superintendent has indicated a need for 2 additional stop signs to be added at the Voice Mill and Dunn Farm Road intersection, creating a 3-way stop intersection, and whereas the safety of those traveling on the roads will be enhanced by making this 3-way stop intersection, and now be it therefore resolved that the town board of the town of Rochester concurs with the highway superintendent recommendation that a 3-way stop intersection at Voice Mill and Dunn Farm Roads and authorizes the 3-way stop intersection at Voice Mill and Dunn Farm Roads and directs the highway superintendent to install the appropriate signage.
I'll still second.
Okay, discussion.
The signage was already installed.
Yes,
Is that,
They're bagged now, right?
they should be.
They're covered.
I didn't check, but I did request that happen. So this was a process issue. Oh, they're not. This was a process issue that I was made aware of, and
what was the impetus? How was the decision made that, like, well, I know that you're saying there's a process pop up, but like, why is there a need for this? Did something happen?
typically what ideally will happen is the highway superintendent will come to the board, make a recommendation, and then we would make the decision. You know, we would consider it and either put it on an agenda or pass it or whatever. So in this case, what I was told is he was under the impression that it was his decision to do that. He did send an email saying that it was based on complaints of, you know, people that live in the area, of people speeding through.
Well, I think,
Complaints and writing?
I mean, there should be a process of documents, that's for sure. We're gonna put up stuff.
People do speed through. I live there, but I don't know if that's not where the problem is. In my opinion. I feel like it happens way before that, right? Like starting at 2:09 to whatever, I don't know. I walk on there all the time.
You feel?
Fine. Do you? Don't you walk on there all the time?
I do. I don't love that turn by the waterfall, but
Yeah.
because it's not visible.
Right, like that's the most dangerous part, and needing to enter 209 is the most dangerous part.
So, yeah, so we have a motion on the table and a second. We can make a motion to table. We can, if the board doesn't, we can call the vote and it's a board decision.
I'll do whatever you guys think. It seems like it came out of nowhere to me. I don't really, it's not like I guess it can't hurt, but I defer to what other people think if someone has a
Well,
strong.
what's the other option? Take the stop signs out?
Yeah,
Yep.
I guess that's right, like
Mhm.
what's,
Yeah.
and then like,
If it's not, if the board doesn't approve, or if we wanted to table, I think we want to make sure that they get backed. Or if we vote no, then we would ask that they get removed.
I'd like to make a motion to table to the workshop meeting, and I think that we should have a discussion with the highway department about that there has to be a procedure and see if there are any written complaints about this. And that in the future, we need backup information for something like this before any action can be taken for us to make a decision. But I'm happy to, I think that we should table it and have some discussions first before approving this. And also make sure that they are backed until we do approve this.
that sounds fine to me.
Mary Lou, is that right? We can motion to table while there's a motion. and a second on
Yes.
the- Okay, so do I have that motion? That's
made
through a
that.
resolution, right?
I'm sorry?
Can we just table it? Or do we have
Yes.
to
Yeah, you can-
have a motion to table it?
A motion to table, a second and a vote.
We do have to vote?
Because it's on
On
the,
the table, on whether or not to table.
I make a motion to table resolution H.
okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Okay, so I will make sure those get bagged.
Mary Lou, does that fall under written notice if complaints with signage?
Well, if there was written notice that there was a dangerous condition there and then something happened, then somebody could, sue the town and perhaps would be liable if in fact it was dangerous and we didn't do anything about it.
Or if there was something the town.
Yeah.
Okay,
On your next, motion on the is that the 284?
yes.
Yeah. On that, I noticed that in the agreement, it doesn't specify whether it's for just materials or materials and labor. And that should be in there just to avoid confusion later. My guess is it's both.
Okay,
But if it's just materials and then later they come and say, oh, we need the labor money. Cornell recommends, although it's not required, that you include in your agreement exactly what it's for.
okay, so you're saying that where it says oil and chip and like paving, that's not clear whether it.
Right, is it just for the materials or is it for the materials and the labor?
Okay, so it sounds like we should table that.
Yeah, I would table that and just ask Jeff and add whatever language is appropriate.
Okay. And so Mary Lou, could you just send me a quick email with exactly
Sure.
what the request for-
Yep. I will do that.
Okay, great. Okay, so, and then, I removed that from the agenda because once I looked at it, I realized it was, I think, just a misunderstanding. So that brings us to resolution K, authorizing the use of town highways. So I'll go ahead and, well, Mary Lou, I had a question about this because
Mhm.
do we also have to get the consent of the highway superintendent? Or this is solely a town board
I
decision?
believe it's solely town board.
Okay,
When is the race?
it's in June.
I don't think it would hurt to refer it to him.
Before we vote on it?
Yeah, you could
Okay.
refer it to him and then vote on it next week. And I do have one question on that. I saw we got their liability insurance. do we know on this if they have any cars that go, to lead or follow the bikers? Because if they do, we should also get their auto
Okay,
insurance.
I can follow up. I think it's just the bike route, but, I can follow up.
Yeah, because sometimes they have a car leading or following.
Okay. Okay, great. So we will have lots of highway stuff on our next agenda. I also, moving on to discussion, unless there were any other resolutions that. Good, okay. So I did not get a chance to put together a draft, roof bid request, so I'd like to table that. I apologize for not getting around to that. So our next item is N. So I did make some additions from the initial agenda that I sent out. So this is the updated agenda that I sent out earlier today. We received a draft lease proposal for use of the municipal parking spaces that was discussed during the granary project EEO legislation process. And so we've received a draft lease. Did everyone see that? I think it was sent to us like a while ago, a few meetings ago, and then I sent it again.
But just, can you give like a couple sentences of context?
Yes.
How it was discussed?
Yeah. So, I can go ahead. Part of the EEO designation process was to figure out the appropriate parking lot size for that project. And what the board, we wanted to make sure there was some constraints around parking, and we were granting some leeway in the way that spaces were calculated, but we didn't want to simply limit the number of parking spaces for that project to what the applicant felt was feasible. There was a lot of negotiation. The project itself shrank a little. They did increase the parking spots, but we felt that we didn't want to go below a certain number. And they didn't feel like there was places for those spots. So part of the EEO decision was that they are required to have arrangements for 6 parking spots off-site before they're able to get site plan approval. And this application is now before the planning board. I think they've had a couple meetings and they have a public hearing coming up. So there's still time, before that decision is going to be made, but it's not like necessarily an infinite amount of time. Initially, the discussion was had that they would contract with the town to have 6 spots in the municipal lot that is over there, next to the firehouse. But the way we wrote it in the EEO is that it would just have to be, we weren't limiting them to the municipal lot. So, but there were a lot of discussions about utilizing the municipal lot for that purpose. So we were sent a proposal, a draft lease proposal from the applicant to get the ball rolling. So that is where we're at. And so I asked Mary Lou to review it. Mary Lou, how do you guys, I could open the discussion with the board, or we could hear from Mary Lou initially about what her thoughts are.
I'd like to hear from you.
Okay.
I have reviewed it. I think that I have to get in touch with their attorney and discuss things, because it's kind of a standard leasing of parking lot, and you know, we're not the mall. We don't have a paved parking lot. They are proposing $100 a year for 5 years and then going up 25%. We wouldn't be able to maintain it how they want it for that price. And I don't know if that price was, you know, discussed with the former supervisor or if it's just a placeholder. But I also have a little bit of a concern that it's a 25-year lease, but they're looking for a special use permit that would be forever. So in 25 years, they might need 6 spaces still. So I want to talk to their attorney about ways that we could fashion this a little bit differently. That's just a few things. I have more notes written in there, but you might want to discuss what a fair price is. And I don't know what a fair price is.
Yeah, and Mary Lou, they do have clauses in there where they would do the maintenance and the lines and the paving and snow clearing, that stuff. But I agree that, I mean, the price seems,
But only for those 6 spaces, right?
Right. Right. And let's see.
How's the lot used now?
It's a municipal lot.
It's
So
an
anything-
empty,
It's public.
It's during.
It's public parking
that we
during certain
allow-
hours.
Yes.
I don't know, I feel like it's like, yeah, I would be interested in trying to get that approved and just moving along. I feel like this project has taken so long and it benefits everyone. That my understanding was that the town was, a lot of people were concerned about the traffic. So this is the solution. Like, so it benefits everyone, like, or people were worried there weren't enough parking spaces. So then this is the solution to making sure there's parking.
It's not that people were worried, they didn't have enough according to what they were
Parking
required.
spaces.
Yes.
So then this
Right.
is.
That this was,
Creating
that they have to be off site. It doesn't have to be the municipal one, but they have to get them off site.
But it's nice that there's an unused lot
The municipal. lot
right
is-
there for them to help satisfy the requirements. So seems like a good deal to me.
I will say personally, my opinion on this, I've gotten to it, but I don't think that there's anything in there that they still have to follow the rules of our municipal lot law. Even though they're leasing these spots. Like they can't park, like right now you can't park over. You know, it's
Right. Well,
not-
actually in there, there's something in there that grants them the permission to park overnight.
I personally don't think we should get into that with anyone in the town to change, to let them go against or grant a variance to our.
If people want to be free, if it's at an establishment that's providing alcohol, I feel like it's a safety issue where I would want people to have somewhere where they can park overnight.
They can park there, but my suggestion to since the beginning for them, for their use of the municipal lot spaces with it is that they follow most other hotels in this area's business model, that the farthest spaces away, which would be the municipal lot, is where their employees park.
but that could.
But they will have
not-
overnight employees.
Like they have employees that are there
It's a
late.
hotel, yeah.
I think that it's, I mean, Michael, I'm sorry,
okay,
I don't want to interrupt the discussion that's going on.
why you remember what?
I think for me, I had concerns. You know, big picture, I think there's a lot we could do with the municipal lot and businesses and spaces, assignment of spaces, especially if it was striped. And we had, you know, the code and the procedure and the laws to allow that to happen. We currently don't have that in place. It's not a striped lot. We do have existing complications with, you know, there being a curfew of parking in there. And if employees are parking in there and they're working until midnight, I wouldn't want them to be getting towed.
Yeah.
So I think there should be some allowance for that, especially if it's employees. the way the lease is drafted, I feel like we currently couldn't offer what they're asking for in the current state. So I don't know how to think about it in that regard.
Because of the parking restrictions,
Yeah, and that we don't have spots, like, I guess
well, they would line.
their own.
Now, Michael, it says the lessor, that's us. We're going to be doing that.
We would do the lining.
We would be doing that, all the maintenance under the,
Oh,
For
for $100 a year?
yeah, that's what I was saying at the beginning. We couldn't afford to do what they're looking for $100 a year. Maybe they meant 100 per space. And only
Oh,
a
this is
25.
crazy.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was a placeholder, I don't know if they're like, let's just throw out $100. But I can talk to Mr. Moriello about all of that. So I don't think this is anywhere near ready to accept or sign. So why don't you let me get in touch with him and discuss? But I wanted to hear from you guys first.
And I don't know, Mary Lou, what, in this situation, what you would advise on. I mean, I don't know when the businesses are going to open, so I feel like in terms of the start of the lease agreement and when, if the board did have plans to do some improvements to the lot, how we would work those types of things into the lease. We wouldn't want to hold ourselves to a plan that we haven't made yet. And so it feels complicated, but I also recognize there is a lot of space over there. It's just, I wouldn't want it to be a vague.
Right. I agree with you.
Ideally speaking for myself, if we were going to have a program where businesses can have assigned spaces, I would want there to be spaces that have their.
Yeah, some signage or something that says it's a reserved spot.
I like that. I will also say though, none of our other businesses on Main Street have a lease with us for the municipal lot, is my only thought with this. If we approve this, we don't require any other business on Main Street. It's a municipal lot, that's what it's meant for. It's meant for people to park at during operation hours, for people to go shop at the shops in town. So I think that you're right. If we have to look into a bigger picture of what it means for all of the businesses on Main Street, not just one that's going in, because we didn't agree to only putting it's off-site parking. It doesn't have to be the municipal lot. Which all of our other businesses have to deal with on Main Street, which have a much smaller footprint. And
Are there
parking
any other
spaces.
businesses that stay open after the municipal lot hours?
There's people who park from those other businesses after municipal lot hours, yes.
So I think one thing that this opens up is that the possibility. What I will say is that in this case, we don't have any business that is currently under a site plan approval that requires them to have additional parking spaces that they do not have. So
And definitely not under an EEO.
definitely not under NEO. So that's where this came out of, is that this project, site plan needs additional parking spaces. So other businesses are able to utilize the lot, but their like ability to get the certificate of occupancy doesn't rest on them having spaces in the lot. So I think that's why in this case, if we were to be the lessor in this case, we would want to make sure that they are guaranteed those 6 spaces. Whereas other businesses can come and go, and if there's a spot, there's a spot, and if not, there's not. But in this case, what they're asking for is the guarantee that they have 6 assigned spaces, because their ability to operate rests on them having and knowing that those 6 spaces are for the use of, and you see that, you know, when we are out, you'll see a parking sign that's like, this is for
Yeah.
customers
I
of
know what
this.
you're talking
It would
about.
be something like that. So if businesses that, you know, I think it would be for us, if there were other businesses or other organizations or, you know, it doesn't have to be a business, but something that requires parking because visitors are coming. And it was in a place in the hamlet that didn't have parking, I think this would open up either that depending on your viewpoint, that possibility or that
Nightmare.
for that, so.
I feel like that is helpful clarification. I feel like the number, I don't know, because I don't know how much it costs to maintain the lot, but to me, I feel like if it's about a requirement we're imposing on them and the lot's gonna be used but for other businesses who aren't gonna pay, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like I guess I would want more information about what the costs that we're putting in, who else is benefiting it, in order to really understand how much we need them to pay for it. Because if it sounds more of a just like a way to help us all comply with like getting to a good compromise. And I don't know if it doesn't sound like it's so much about us looking for a way to fund the lot. So that's why I don't know if the number is such a big deal until I get more information on it.
I think the only thing that I'm thinking of is if from a macro perspective, I personally think it is underutilized, and like I think it would be really great to have a striped lot that you could have parking. We have events, you know, there's all sorts of stuff. And like I think there are ways that we could create, you know, safe and responsible regulations and amendments to our existing laws that are on the books to like utilize this space. My concern is like, oh, on a macro perspective, I don't want to enter into an agreement and then down the road, we're like, oh, we need to charge $100 a spot per year. And then we've got this 25-year lease agreement that's like a quarter.
Can we like
of that.
enter into it and then say, we'll review this once we figure out what we're doing with the rest of the lot?
Not on a 25-year lease.
Well, that's what I'm saying, instead of the 25 years, change
Well,
it.
well, the problem is they really need 6 spaces in perpetuity, I would say. I mean, normally that's what we do. If somebody's parking not on our property, but somewhere else, we make them file a deed where their neighbor gives them the right to park there and forever. If they get a site plan or special use, you know, if they get those approvals, they're forever. What happens when this lease expires and they are short 6 spots?
They have to find parking somewhere else.
Right, or they'd have to, right, I want to talk to Mike about that because they'd have to find parking somewhere else or they'd lose their approval because they wouldn't have it. So I think that's something that I need to discuss with their attorney.
Yeah.
But I guess the question is, are you folks interested in at least pursuing this with them to see what we can come up with?
I am.
I mean, sure, but the number needs to change.
Oh,
And
Yes.
I'm not inclined to be sympathetic. I mean, they could have had more spots there. They requested that they be allowed to have less spots and have an alternate solution so that they could maintain the parcel. I'm not gonna now feel like there's some obligation that we have as a board. I mean, $100 a year is, I mean, it's laughable.
But the question is, do you want to pursue it? So all of these issues can only be resolved if she pursues it and has
Yeah,
conversations.
sure.
So
Talk-
yes, I think the
I'm willing
answer
to
sounds
hear-
like yes.
Yeah, I'm willing to hear it out. I also agree with Michael, we didn't make any promises. They could have subtracted uses to make it less. We also granted them the old zoning code space, which was smaller for requirements for parking spaces.
Or the new. Are updated.
Right, the update is a
The
smaller. It
upcode
was,
that we
it
have
was 10 by 20, now it's gonna be 9 by 18.
The current one, we granted them less than what the current
Yeah.
code is for
Yes.
parking meters,
Yes.
as well as allowing them to have 6 offsite.
Yeah,
So I
and you
think
know,
we've been very flexible with them on this issue, so I'm open to seeing changes and something better presented to us.
yeah, and
I
you
feel
know,
like,
go ahead, Erin.
I feel like we, in those discussions, I feel like they were very geared towards the idea that that we would be willing to do an agreement with them. When it came down to the final decision, though, we didn't want to tie the project to an agreement with the municipal lot because
Right,
knowing that that could potentially not work out. So I feel strongly that we should try to work to make this happen. But as proposed, I don't feel comfortable. And I also would not feel comfortable for anything in perpetuity. So,
right, so we have to figure that out. And also just another perspective, which kind of goes along with what Michael and Charlotte were saying. If they get these extra 6 spaces in a lease with us, that brings them a long way toward opening what could be a very valuable business, which would be great for the town, potentially, but they need those spots. So if they were getting them from someone else, there might be some cost involved.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, this isn't even a reasonable.
I think for me, the perspective that I would want to have is what are spots, dedicated spots in our municipal lot worth? And that's what we should base it off. Because I want, if we were to offer this, I think I would want it to be based on that.
That makes sense.
I also think, considering, overall, the costs of, I did forget, this is related. We are having the courthouse lot striped on next week. I meant to put this in my correspondence report, but that is happening. And so, just knowing that striping costs $2,500 every, I don't know, 10 years or something, we can get those numbers. So
We also need to repave that lot
Yeah.
before we stripe it. There's no use in striping.
Right.
Oh, right,
Stands
totally.
now.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
There's.
totally. That has happened. So we can get those numbers, for that and think about what the town costs are. And I just think we should base it on what we think a reasonable rate for use of a parking spot should be. I agree. Okay, so do we have you're gonna talk to the lawyer.
Yes, and you
Right.
guys are gonna look about pricing.
And then I think we just have the legislative questions about, the current law that's on the books and how we would want to frame that for parking there. Okay. We ready to move on? Does everyone feel like we know what the next steps are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. O is transfer station vacancies and then some staffing requests. So I included in the meeting backup a couple of job duty statements. That's the only backup I have for this. So we've had a vacancy at the transfer station for a third laborer, transfer station attendant, but it's a laborer position for a long time now. Before the transition of me in this role, like 2 months ago, Former Supervisor Baden had advertised the position and gotten applicants, and we actually had a couple of interviews, and then we've had this transition of people. So I would like to pick this back up, but it brings up for me two things. One is hiring process. So what we have used to do is department head and perhaps the liaison to the department would conduct interviews and bring that to the board, and then the board would, you know, review any, you know, resumes or whatever, not whatever, but resumes of the recommended appointee, and then we would, you know, make those appointments. So I just wanted to check in about what, we don't have a set hiring procedure, which I would like to, but we can't do everything all at once. So I wanted to open up the discussion on that, and then the second part is that I've had a suggestion, a request from the staff there that we look at the budget and consider, what they asked for was a fourth seasonal position that could be less hours, or because they feel like in the summer they would like a fourth person present.
Every day or this week?
Not necessarily every day, most days, but they don't feel like it would have to be for the full shift. So that just some flexibility. Because we haven't had someone appointed in that position, there is a little flexibility in the budget, though the current staff have been approved through the supervisor's office to work more hours. So I have to take a look at where we're at. But that made me think about how this is a longer process, but I was thinking, you know, we have the third labor position. We also have a transfer station operator position approved. But I was kind of thinking about, there are two county positions that have duty statements. One's a recycling assistant and the other is a recycling coordinator. So it's a big discussion. And I'm open to hearing you guys' feedback about wanting to split it up, but it made me feel like it would be really, I think, good to investigate if we could have a fourth position that was recycling focused, that could also coordinate recycling in other ways, so that they would be sort of like have some hours at the transfer station, but also maybe some hours spent with other departments or other programs. So it was just a thought that came out of this idea of hiring a fourth person. But so that was a lot. Let's focus on the filling of the vacancies. So we do need a third person, especially now that it's coming up on summer. I have applicants, qualified applicants, two of which I've interviewed. There's more. So how would the board like to proceed?
Should we maybe, so wait, we have one full position to fill, correct, from the resignation that we got. And then we also have a fourth potential part-time fill-in seasonal position.
We would have to,
That's what
we would have to request.
We have to request the additional.
I need to double check. We have we're approved to have an operator. And I know we're approved to have an operator and two laborers. What I don't know is if we still are approved to have 3 laborers and an operator. So I have to find that.
Approved by city service.
Yes, we're limited in our appointments by what we've been approved. By what the express need is.
And were you saying that we have been approved for a recycling assistant or that?
No, this would
potential-
be this would be something that we would request. We would put in a duties statement that, and then they would come back and say, oh, that's this position and you are or are not approved to fill this position, but it can take a while. So I guess it would be something that maybe someone could transition to, like.
I think me personally, my idea for the process is I am not opposed to recycling coordinator or recycling assistant. For us requesting that something get added since it is a lengthy process to get something put from civil service onto us. And then in the meantime, maybe just advertising and before we appoint or do any more interviews or do interviews with a few other people you have and find out how many positions we can have to hire. Because if we get, and so we can hire them for the summer while we're waiting particular to hear back, get these added to the town. So that we have someone there in the position and then we can also budget for this for next year's, because probably by the time we get this back, it will almost be budget season. To try to work that into next year's budget and keep what we have still within this year's. But that's just my.
I agree with that. I think my only suggestion would be like, maybe can you keep interviewing people at the same time as you're putting in the request to find out how many positions we have? Because
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, okay,
That's what
yeah, not put it on hold, just continue with that process, figure out how many we have.
I'm sorry, if that wasn't clear. I meant the same thing,
Sorry.
to continue interviews while we find out, to know how many. we
Oh, I
offer
thought you
by
were
the
saying
end.
halt the interview.
No, I was saying
Okay.
continue them
Then
while
yes,
we wait
I-
for the answer.
How do you,
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to fill a position, figure out if we can have another person continue interviewing. I think recycling assistant is something we talked about. I'm also interested if we were able to get a fourth person or a part-time person, maybe that position could be recycling coordinator.
that's my
yeah.
suggestion.
Yeah, okay.
That's my suggestion, but we don't have that position. So
So the part-time person would be the recycling.
if we, that's what I'm thinking about in terms of interviewing.
But
Okay,
we
so we
might
could-
have, I thought it was also that we might have it be approved already for a fourth,
So I think
third labor.
I think that what we have approved are 3 laborers and 1 operator. The operator has to have 3 years of experience working at at a transfer station. So we would have to have either someone who is qualified to direct work at the transfer station, appointed into that role, and then 3 laborers. So that's where the 4 would come from. So it's just a matter of thinking about who the applicants are, who the existing employees are, what and where we want to go with the staffing, I guess.
So why don't we go toward, if we have the fourth, we go towards hiring someone part-time seasonal for now while this is submitted and we're waiting to hear back on it. And then hopefully by the end of the season that we appoint them for, we may have an answer to potentially extend it and make it the full time with them doing both duties, but like keeping that in mind when we hire the part-time person.
And in terms of interviewing and hiring, how do you feel about that? Like, do we want another board member involved? That's what we've typically done. But at this point, I've interviewed 2 people with former Supervisor Baden. So, and then I have another applicant that I just received that hasn't been interviewed, that I think you might, that I think the board could.
I don't personally care if we have another board member interview for the position. I would be willing to interview if you wanted another perspective on candidate, but I'm confident if you've interviewed them, then. you may-
Yeah, I feel like out of all 4 of us. So I'm confident.
I would be willing to sit in on it because I work with the transfer station most
That would be
anyway,
great,
and
yeah.
handle
I don't
the
love the idea.
financials. I do want to say prior to 2020, there were 4 employees that worked there, so 4 employees, that's not unheard of to be there.
Yeah.
I also do think it's really important to hire someone soon because it really has not been fair to put
Yeah.
all of that on these 2 employees.
Yeah.
Especially if one of them's out, and I know that recently happened, like on a Friday. It really, and it's not fair to them, things come up.
So I do think it's important to hire somebody sooner than later for the third labor position at least.
Do we know why we would have lost the fourth person? Did they
Yeah.
just pull it away?
Honestly, I just don't want to say the wrong thing, so I'm
Yeah.
just letting you know that it's not, I haven't looked in our personnel file to see what we.
So you have two candidates you've interviewed. One candidate you have to schedule an interview with?
What I would like to do is re-interview the two candidates. And Kate, if you would do those with me, that would be great, because I don't love the, I love the idea that you trust me. I don't love the idea of necessarily ad hoc, like putting all the hiring on this role. So I would like us to have a hiring policy that we follow, that it could be department-based, but I don't love the idea of changing how we do hiring from vacancy to vacancy. I like the idea of transparency and having like a set process that we follow.
Actually, I think we should figure out a process.
But yeah,
sounds like a
but for
second
now,
interview
I think
makes
I would
sense.
feel more comfortable doing it with someone else, and then Kate and I will make a recommendation to the board, and we could probably do that before our workshop meeting, and then get someone in there by the end of May, which is what I spoke with the staff about.
So are you asking for an informal policy that you want the board to establish for interviews?
No,
No, we already have that. I think, I was only saying because you had already interviewed them with someone else, if you had someone to pick. To put
yeah,
right in.
because
That's
what
But
I
I
was
want someone.
what I was-
volunteering, Kate, but I
so
was-
what we had done in the past was, when possible, there would be two appointing members making the recommendation. I conducted an interview with a former appointing member. We did not come up with a recommendation together.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I'm,
Like starting over.
we're
Yeah.
starting over, but the two candidates we interviewed initially were both good candidates. I just didn't make, I didn't have like a recommendation based on that. And they're both, as far as I know, the last I've spoken with both, they're both still available. So I think if we could schedule, if we're able to schedule those interviews, I have another, and I think I actually have two more. And then we could make a recommendation to the board, and I'll figure out what positions we have available, because if we were able to actually do both, that would be great. And right,
Two and an environment and a recycling system.
one and someone, yes, yeah. Well, right now, we're not approved for the specific recycling roles, though anyone working at the transfer station is working recycling.
I mean, you can hire a laborer, and if you get approved for a different title, you could take.
That's what I would like to do.
Labor, switch it over.
That's what I would like to do,
Right.
is interview. If the board likes that idea, I would like to think about that when we're interviewing candidates. Okay. And for future, I would like us to adopt the hiring policy, but that is something that's gonna take us a little bit.
Erin, can I just ask one more question? It's kind of to do with this, but not, the position that we had that was, transfer station and buildings maintenance super, I can't remember the exact term we used. Do you know if we've heard anything back at all from that?
I haven't,
I know you've been in the office for 4 days. If you don't have an answer, it's fine.
as far as I know, we never heard back. We still haven't heard back from that or
For the zoning.
The zone-
coordinator.
the municipal code assistant.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the exact names.
We haven't heard back from about either of those. So we do have, funds budgeted for staffing that we have not, especially in that first position that you talked about. The other one, it's not as much because we have a role that is. Okay, so I think we have clear next steps on that. Kate and I will conduct interviews. Thank you, Kate. We will together come up with recommendations based on the available positions that we have and our budget. I'll have to look at the budget. And then we will, based on that, we'll make hopefully at least one recommendation by our workshop meeting. And then I am the department head for the transfer station, so I'm planning on starting my days there on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And so I would also be available to help. Like I would want to be onboarding and training new employees as well. So we've talked about that. So P, I didn't want to lose this thread, so we have the constable positions duties statements. I included,
Password.
they are? How is,
My internet's not working. My internet wasn't working either.
Oh.
I have this one printed copy we can pass around, since I asked for everything printed.
The email server is.
Yeah, I couldn't get my emails.
I haven't been able to access
And
them.
websites. It's been going off and on all day.
Yeah, I've had a problem all day, but I thought someone's
The other
email was
one,
too full. Sometimes when someone has too many emails, we stop getting emails. And then we have to cycle them.
Oh, is that one?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Are you blaming?
Not at all.
Maybe,
She stepped into.
maybe it's the other account that I'm now. So, I didn't realize that the digital versions were password protected. I pulled those from those are what the county sent me. There were edits that the county sent based on feedback that the board in a previous iteration had discussed. And so those include those. And then I sent Constable Miller, former Supervisor Beatty sent them to Constable Miller, who pointed out just a very specific, like, kind of typo that they say police officers, but it should say peace officers. And he sent the section that I sent the board that in the backup, which you should be able to access that because I was just.
also at the beginning of this email thread, Rich told Mike to reduce his inbox.
Yes,
So I'm guessing.
and that happens. No, that happened.
I just noticed that.
Yeah, no.
That's
That
close
happened.
enough that he might not have deleted them.
Delete emails.
No,
Or like our
you're not allowed
can't
to.
delete
No.
our
What's
accounts, but-
reducing an inbox?
You have to make a file and pull everything to that file.
You're not gonna have to, I
You'll be
haven't,
fine.
I haven't had to do it.
I'm like every year and a half, I get 30, 40 emails a day.
Oh.
I haven't had to do it.
Alright.
I will soon, but I haven't had to. So what do we wanna do? Do we want to table this discussion till our workshop meeting? Is there any direction from the board, any ideas or feedback from the board of where we wanna go next? With,
I haven't read it, but I think we should take it.
okay,
Yeah, I think we should table it so they have a chance to read it, but I'm fine with moving forward with what we've seen, with making the changes that were in there. I also had conversation with Constable Miller about it earlier today when we talked about the elder care review added with the police officer and peace officer.
I mean, I have the same position I've had. I could be constable, not chief constable. So we can talk about that.
I agree.
Just think that title has specific meanings.
so let's plan on having this discussion at our workshop meeting. I think it would be, I'm not opposed to inviting constables, plural, I mean, any of our constables to that discussion. And at least for a part of it. How does the board feel about that?
I like that. I think that we need to have better, more open communication between departments and the board and
Yeah.
our employees, especially, we've been making these decisions about a position and we've never invited the person who currently does this position without this title and ask them about it.
Yeah.
So I think it's smart. We don't have to do everything someone says, but just to include people in the discussion more often, I think is a good thing moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable. I think the workshop's a good place to do it.
Okay, so it sounds like, you know, just for, I think, transparency, it sounds like we, and I just know this, I don't think that we are all gonna be in agreement about this, like, so I think we should just prepare ourselves for that type of discussion and know that, like, we are all reasonable people who care about the town and, you know, we're trying to make the best decisions that we can.
Yeah.
And just like try to, I know that this could be like a conversation where there's a lot of points of disagreement. So I just want to say that.
I feel like that's why it's even more important to have him come and give us, allow us to like ask questions and hear his side, probably, just the more information.
Absolutely.
better.
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
disagree
Yeah,
on
yeah.
something. I'm gonna have to be virtual for that, so I won't be able to like vote on anything, just saying. that.
Yeah, I don't know that, I don't think you could participate either. You
Oh, I
could
could
watch the
watch.
meeting,
But
but
I
you
could watch and then we can, it'll just, I should watch. I
You
feel
can,
like.
yeah, you could watch it, but I don't think you can participate.
Yeah, you can't discuss it with the board. So
You're not
you can
agree-
watch it that
Right.
night, or you can watch it on YouTube if you don't have time that evening.
So archaic.
Well, I'm happy to change that, even though it did get changed. Maybe on maternity leave.
I would have changed it for you.
You could probably potentially submit any questions you have to the board.
Oh, yeah,
prior
you can
to,
send
so they
the
can,
list beforehand
you know,
if you want
We'll
to.
get
do ad
those
hoc.
answers
I
addressed.
appreciate
Yeah.
that. That's a good thing and we'll work our way around it, but I think it's just another example of why it would be useful for us to change that law
Yes.
in the year 2020 and 24.
Okay, so just ahead, so we, at the workshop meeting, okay, so at our last workshop meeting, we said we wanted to have a discussion about court security, and invite, Constable Miller and the justices. The justices were not available tonight, so we said we wanted to do that tonight. The justices were not available tonight. Everyone seemed like they would be available on the 9th, but now we've rescheduled our meeting. And now, yeah, they can't come on the Wednesday. So we can most likely have this discussion with, and invite Constable Miller as long as he's available on the 15th. But that discussion about security, I don't know now. I don't want to keep tabling it. I'm going off topic, but we're talking about that meeting, and we do have a report from the security. Now I'm remembering all the correspondence that I was trying to remember. That I checked in about when we might get the report from the security consultant for the site assessment. And they asked if I could meet with them next week. So I guess, do you guys feel comfortable with that? And then we would probably want to have like a presentation to the board or something of that. But I think it would be good to have that incorporated into the discussion about security at the court. So I think I'm just verbally processing, but I think it's actually working out okay. That I'll check in with that security consultant and then I'll see when everyone's available to meet about court security. But I would like to ask, maybe I know the justices had some thoughts and like, maybe I should get them to write a memo so that we have time to think
I was gonna
about.
say, can we maybe see if everyone's available for our audit meeting and schedule the meeting for then and like collect, like see if they'll draft a memo and just see if we can get the security consultants back, at least the report, the paper report without a presentation back before that to go over and have it at the same time? Or do you want us to have been presented to by the? security
No,
consultant
are
first?
you okay with scheduling something on the agenda at the audit meeting.
When is the audit meeting?
It's actually
Last
really
Thursday?
late. It's like
I think it's the 30th.
Yeah,
It's really good. I can get it to 30.
Yeah, that
Last
sounds like
Thursday.
a great.
Is that Memorial Day? Is that Memorial Day weekend?
It's right after this week, the weekend's
Oh,
25th.
the 27th.
I mean, I don't mind if like, if that's the only thing that we know we're adding to the,
good to see you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
If that's the only thing we're at, do we have anything else that we've like pushed to that? I don't mind if it's like at our audit, we have to have in like departmental meetings before we sign the bills. I don't really mind that happening before the audit meetings. But if you guys feel differently, like, please say so. But I don't mind if it's like, that's when we have, like, if we select that as like the time where we can have to like knowingly meet with departments where we know we don't have a bunch that they'd be sitting here waiting to like get to an agenda item on, I wouldn't mind that.
Okay, so I can propose that. Because I know that one of the justices can't really get on the 15th already, so. Probably both of them.
court. Yeah.
Because one can't make it. Okay, yeah, neither one of them could make it happen. Okay, so we'll do that. Thanks for letting me go off discussion topic. But then we will see if Constable Miller and if there's other constables that would like to be a part of that conversation, but to come on team. If they're not doing court security, that is. Q, okay. Liaison assignments and liaison reports and liaison expectations. So we've never, since I've been on the board, there's never been here's what your job is when you are a liaison. So also the liaison assignments are at the pleasure of the supervisor. So it's like not even something that like we agree upon like as a board. So I guess I just wanted to, sometimes I have felt like when we're going around the table, it's a little bit like, I'm just wondering, would it be helpful if we had like a template for what we want to report or a process, or if we want departments and boards and commissions to fill out a form that would be a report that they do on their own that is communicated to the board directly. Because I feel like I don't want to create more work for the board, but I would like there to be more open communication between the commissions and the boards and the departments. So do you see what I'm saying?
I think a generalized report structure for them to like upcoming events, what happened at your last meeting, like the points that we want to hear every month is like, like the elevator speech from them, I think would be helpful and I think would be good so that we do hear from all departments and like where we should. I do think like as a liaison, like I think my role personally, you guys might feel differently, but like for me with the House Committee, the Elder Care, the Rec Center, like if there's issues or something that needs to be done is when I need to like really report back to you guys as the liaison, not so much like, oh, here are the events. Like I feel like that could be covered in a general report that we get from each department. But I do still think that there should be a liaison so that there is like a point person so that not everything falls on the supervisor's office or the different commissions and boards we have.
I think that's exactly right. Like let the actual entities do like the basic updates and then the liaison's job is to like facilitate the necessary discussion and like the information exchange between the board. And
Requests, things like that.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I'm curious, I mean, in some cases, I don't think it's appropriate for us to ask for reports necessarily if it's not actually like fire district's town entity that is subject to our purview. So, if they want to, that's
I was
great,
gonna say,
but
it should just be optional.
yeah.
If you have something you want to share.
Similarly, we have people that are volunteers or doing things for, minimal stipend. I don't want to necessarily put on the chairs additional work either. I don't want to put work on the board.
So I think we can see if they're willing to do that. I think if they are, great. We have some people that are providing amazing reports. And then I think if we just do it by, exception, I don't think, we need to feel like we have to have an update for every liaisonship, if it's a word, every meeting.
The thing for me that I would like to shift is what I hear sometimes is, people feeling like things aren't getting reported to the board. So I would like to give that like directly to the chair, the entities, like the departments my vision is like a monthly internal sort of newsletter type thing where it's like, this is what everyone wants to report to the board that is shared. And then, if there's some sort of, if there are other, like a liaison to me is like a communication role. So if there's like, other things, or I do like the idea of like, when we're doing hiring to have a pair, maybe, I don't know how you guys like that, but.
I like the idea that I think it should be opt-in, like the key is you said, if there's things they want to do and like, or want to report, here's your opportunity. Like we can facilitate it here, like it's a week ahead of the workshop meeting. Send us these points, including anything else you want the board to know, and we'll digest it. And reminder, here's your contacts from the board for each person if you want to have, if you have any questions, I think there's people, it took me and Elaine way too long to even like get our phone numbers for each other. You know what I mean? Like it would be nice if there was just kind of a continuous, easy place for them to get information, our contact information, us to have their contact information. I don't know.
So what I'm envisioning is like a form that would get sent out and that the responses I could format those into like something that would get sent out. And then with that, we could have that. Here's your contact, like when it gets sent out.
Yeah.
Here's the board. How does everyone feel about their liaison assignments?
You mean what
you're
assigned
working
already?
I could take on another one.
Yeah, I could take on another.
I'm pretty sure Erin had the most liaisons.
Yeah, I know.
So to put both of them on you would be a significant amount.
No, you have to keep it.
Well, we will be appointing another board member, so.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of mine are actually departments, so I feel like I'm gonna be communicating with them anyway. So if they have the ability to communicate with the board in this very like open fashion, like please tell us, this is from the board, not from me, then that makes it a little, easier.
Do we maybe want to trial it with all of yours that you were the liaison for doing this? And we can just operate as normal the next month, and then hopefully we might have another town board member at that time that then if they take over some years, would be an easy transition where the reports just come to them.
Well, my proposal was gonna be that we trial like a form that gets sent out ahead of our next business meeting and just see how it goes. Like,
You can do it for everyone.
and then, anyone that doesn't want it, I'll make it clear, it's not like we're not shutting anything down if you don't fill out this 4-question form, but I think it would be good to have it,
I mean, I do appreciate that I will say that Ashley does a really beautiful, lovely job of writing a very well-written script report to read to you guys every month. And I do appreciate that from her. I think that something like, especially with us normally taking the housing committee meeting slot for the building rescheduling, like I don't always get to get so informed and be able to see everything. Like this month I did ask them for me an email, which was why I was stumbling over trying to read it in front of you guys. But I do appreciate a report that comes and it's like, okay, if I was at the meeting, I can also report on myself. I have a standard of like what has happened that maybe happened after the meeting that I don't know about in between and stuff like that, so.
Well, I think we could do the same format where each liaison could report on what you receive, on what is received, it's just we. And, you know, you could, if it's something that maybe shouldn't be shared publicly, don't share it publicly. So we could still do it in that format.
And a lot of liaison reports is also promoting different events we have going on, so maybe if we could together get all events and just have a section in the town
Yes.
board meeting, these are the scheduled events.
I would love that,
Yeah,
because
that's
I have
definitely we have to talk
such,
about here in paperwork.
yeah, I would love to do it that way, because I was actually trying to do that ahead of this. And I was like, I don't know where to find this.
Yeah, I also feel like
I know, I need to finish the website.
if by doing a newsletter or digesting all the information ahead of time, that also gives us the opportunity when we go around for liaison, that could be an opportunity for town board members to ask the liaison questions about the information we received,
Yeah,
you know?
okay, it sounds like we're open to some,
We need some trial and error.
Trial
of it
and-
see
yeah.
How it goes.
okay.
Are we going into our?
I just wanted to make sure you were good with the updated liaison.
Sure, I would suggest.
Okay. Creation of a process for handling correspondence addressed to the town board. This is just, I would like this as now, like, being in the role that has been authorized to speak on behalf of the town board. In certain circumstances, we receive a lot of correspondence, but we've never had a communication policy. And coming from a lot of backgrounds, but having like a very rich background in sales and marketing management and customer service, I think it's really important that people that contact the board get acknowledged and get a response. And without a policy, I have felt like I don't know how to do that. So I would really like this to be something that we get worked out. Honestly, even a draft in the next month, because of the level of correspondence that we receive. I would also like to work with Kate on it, because I think I would like to let you speak about that, but I do feel that when we're not acknowledging, it can create, I think, more work for the public facing staff.
I agree with that 100%.
Erin, I'm happy to see if I can find any other towns around that might have a communication policy.
Okay.
Or like a response policy, if so, I'm happy to do some research for the workshop meeting
Okay.
on this for you.
That would be
So
great.
that you don't have to do that, and I can try to at least see if I can find any other code or maybe some HR policies available for us
Yeah.
to look at.
And I can help if you need help with that, like even if you want, if you find some that you think are good models and then you wanna send to me and I can try to like. craft
Just
it
I
for
deal
us.
with senior volunteers, so I don't tend to have a lot of communication things now, but I have a similar retail and sales background, so I know that it's much easier.
Yeah.
If you have, you know, a certain timeline or certain amount of responses, and I do appreciate you wanting to have policies and procedures in place just as a whole. I'm not going to stand of it that, like, I do appreciate that because it is the easiest way, in my opinion, to like make sure that everything's even and gets done in a proper way in the town.
Consistent.
Well, and for
Yes,
me,
thank you.
I would say part of it is there's a lot to this position that I do feel a lot of it is being an administrator. And there's a lot of decisions that get made, and I think I would feel for me, the best possible world is knowing that the decision I'm making are supported by the town board. And that, you know, we have something to lean back on to say, this is what we decided we would do in this instance. And if there's gray areas or places where we need to make decisions, then that's something that we would discuss. but some of it is legal, like some of it is like, I'm like, I don't know if I can say something. And I want that to be part of our policy. I know we can't predict everything, but just like having like it be broad enough that it could be anything from, you know, how do we respond to every request or complaint or thing? And the scope of what we hear is like very large. For this specific topic, I'm thinking of like correspondence from the public. We do have some procedures in place for staff that I think are good enough for now. So I feel like those are like different. We do have if we receive a complaint about a official or staff person, we have a policy for that. I think I'm thinking more of like what happens when we're contacted and like what's the communication?
I think it would be good to categorize them as well as to like levels of importance and like what's legal, what's not legal, and have very specific language that would be sent back to the person.
Yes. It could be the same sentence each time if it's legal,
I think that would be smart. And maybe Mary Lou can come up with the language on that.
Yeah.
Or
Well, there'll be
point us
something
to
in
it
like an
somewhere.
example. I'm sure there has to be some town that's done this somewhere or in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Or at
even
least
like, I wanted to prepare something ahead of this to kind of, I don't know what the policy is gonna be, but in my vision, it would be like, there would be like an auto reply. That's like, heads up, the board meets on this schedule. We might not talk about, like, if you email, like, just so people are aware, like, you might get a response from the town supervisor or individual board members, but the board won't have a chance to talk about this until we're in a board meeting together. And this is how we might decide, just like laying it all out so that people get something. And then depending on what we decide, they could get a personal reply,
Also, there should be like a general town board email that goes to all of us, like a listserv.
Yes.
When they come onto our website and say, I want to email the entire town board, it's like town board, and then it lands in all of our emails. They get an auto response, but we all see it, and no one has to like gather it all and make all these attachments. So much work and unnecessary.
Yeah, I think that's kind of an important point for me as well, because I think the supervisor position, I think there's a certain assumption that people make that if they notify the supervisor, that is also going to town board. And I know this from talking to people that live out of state or don't understand town law. There's not an understanding of the role that the supervisor plays with respect to the larger town board. And I think sometimes there might be an assumption if you contact the supervisor that the board is also aware. And I don't think that's always been the case. So for me, I think we should kind of err on the side of over communicating. The day-to-day stuff, the banking stuff, the budget stuff is one thing. If a resident emails the supervisor, unless it's like to complain about another town board member or something, like I think that should be shared with the town board. I want to have as much information as possible. I don't want to be surprised when I'm talking to somebody, they say, oh, well, I emailed supervisor and, I assume that the board knew. Because I don't think people know that. I think they're just like, I want to email one person because then I know I've sent it to one person as opposed to 5 and who's going to answer it. So I would love it if anybody from town emails about an issue in town, if that gets shared with the board. I think that should be like a general policy that we have, unless there's a specific reason why.
I think that should be a policy that's written, which is I think what you're saying, and then doing something like having a group email and communicating to the town. If your objective is to get it to everyone, if you want every board member to see this, this is the email to send it to, just so people understand that, because I agree with you. I think they think that's the way in.
Yeah.
But all that does is like overwhelms your inbox and creates a whole bunch of more work.
I do appreciate Emily's point, like maybe in like one of the, I see what you're picturing with like having the auto responses available, because that's what I had at Mohawk when I dealt in reservations sales there. And if we had one though, like even if we can't make it so there's a hyperlink to email all of us at once, it's like, no, we know to respond to when there's an email that all of us are CC'd on from a resident, or have it be that the town board has received your email, we cannot all discuss in the same email due to quorum issues.
Yeah.
Individual board members can respond to you if they wish, because a lot of people would get mad. I've experienced a lot of people being frustrated that only the supervisor responded, and I've had to explain to people that I don't respond when someone emails all of us because I don't want to cause a quorum issue. I never do emails separately. So yeah, so just like to explain that, people know, like, if you don't get a response, like, it's not, it'll come through as a new email or something, but that will individual, but I think that that's a great idea, and also to make it a policy that any communications that go to the supervisor that are something that the board would be deciding should be distributed to us. Not saying that, new supervisor and now and does that, you've been here for 4 days, so I guess.
don't know.
We don't know, but,
I've been trying.
I think that policy is important and should protect the town board and keep them informed. For future boards, because that wasn't the experience I've had the past 3 years on this board of being kept in the loop and knowing everything that was sent.
Yeah, and I think the supervisor account is a little bit different. Like if somebody emails me directly as a board member, I know that they intended to just be that. Same with
Yeah.
you. I think there's an assumption if it goes to the supervisor that's disseminated. But there's also discretion, right? Maybe it is just directed at you, or if it has to do with personnel or day-to-day functions. So I think we just have to figure out what makes sense.
What we wanna make sure is given to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for this, I mean, it's gonna be a policy, not a law. And it's really, we're operating in good faith that we're gonna agree to something and that we're all gonna follow it. And if we find out someone's not following it, then we can say, hey, what's up?
Or if
But
it's not
that's,
working, we tweak
or if
it.
it's not working, we tweak it. Like, it's possible that you will regret getting sent every single correspondence that I get. Like, it's a lot. I mean, you get a lot. I'm,
No, and I don't think it needs to be every single one, but like, there's things that like people are like, oh, I reported it, yeah, I want everything, I wanna know.
That's why I think that that's why I think there needs to be an option where they can choose to email the entire town. Do you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
might help, but I don't know. I don't even know when something's directed to me. This is a me problem, I'm sure. But I'm like, I don't know how to tell if it's just to me or if it was to everyone.
yeah,
It's our email, I think that this all kind of also get resolved some if we go with and change the Outlook and change
Yeah.
over our emails.
Yes.
because you have to do the drop down and scroll down and then see who
Oh,
it's
yeah.
sent to.
Yeah, I think that some of that will mitigate some of
Um,
that issue.
But,
Okay.
okay, I'm glad, it sounds like everyone is on board and
Yeah, well,
would like to get something, at least a draft in place soon. You
yeah,
two are gonna
yeah, we're
take the
gonna-
lead.
Yeah, we're gonna we'll email and stuff, and I'll see what I can find.
And then in terms of like, that will be policy wise, and then in terms of implementation, we'll get that worked out. Cause I do think when the new website is published, which now that I have like hours, I think that's gonna be a lot easier for me. to finish.
Now that you're- now that
I don't
you're-
have more free time, but I'm not feeling other time. Having like a form, like our current email, I don't think there's a function, although I can double check to do like cause I wanted to do like an all staff email.
No, there's not.
But
There's
you
not
can't
like
do
a board
Um,
members.
but if we switched over, we might have that, but also with the new, in a transition,
You could, oh, yeah, you can make it-
have a form, if there's a form like contact the board, you can set the form up so that it emails everyone. The response.
I'm also gonna reach out to the Clerks Association and see if they have any policies.
Good.
Oh,
on
yeah.
the town to that's a great idea. Get some samples.
Great. Will you send anything you find to Emily and
Oh,
Charlotte?
absolutely.
Okay, I'll let you. Okay. All right,
I just have
just not me. Okay, all right, so. The Cohaston Ambulance Improvement District check-in / update, I have not received the financial reports that we requested. And we said we would give it till our workshop.
Yeah, I haven't received anything yet. I tried to reach out to Holly, the bookkeeper. I haven't heard back yet, so I'll try and follow up again.
I have an update from Holly, the bookkeeper. For full disclosure to the public, Holly is also my bookkeeper at the Rondout Valley Food Pantry. So I have been able to talk to her outside of town board about this, but she has still not received anything from KFAS besides me forwarding her the final 2023 financial report that they gave us a couple months ago to her, so that she had something with an idea of anything for financials. And she keeps reaching out to Bobby and Billy. She's done so and CC'd. When I sent her the report, I had CC'd Dave Bolin and Bobby, their treasurer, who did authorize me to send the report to Holly. I had called and asked him. And she replied asking for CCing me and David Bolin again, asking when she was supposed to have stuff last Thursday, and it was Friday and she hadn't heard from them. And I actually texted her today and asked, and she still has not gotten anything, has had calls and texts with them. So I don't predict that she's gonna be able to do 6 months of financials in the next 2 weeks. She is a very fabulous bookkeeper though, so I won't be surprised if she was able to get it done for them, but as of yet, she has not had anything or seen anything from them. And she is fully settled and back from vacation and has been. Just as an update, because that's what we were told.
So, I mean, I can, in terms of communications, I can say, I did send out like a reminder maybe on Monday, and I haven't heard a response to that. I was just like, hey, when is this, when can we expect this? I'm not sure what the next steps are. I think I could send out another correspondence saying that, we really need to receive this if we're going to consider, you know,
Them for the contract. I
extending a
don't,
contract. I don't,
we're almost halfway through the year without a contract. So to me, if they don't produce something by the workshop meeting, I think we need to at least get quotes from other companies to just see what the cost would be, knowing that if we don't have a contract with them by the budget season this year, I don't know how we can still charge taxes next year, thinking that they're gonna be the ones when we haven't gotten.
Yeah, I mean, we did charge
It doesn't seem responsible with the taxpayers' money doing that to me personally. I'm up to other opinions. I value volunteer services. I want this to work with KFAS. But I think at this point, to make sure the town is covered and that we do spend the money that we have collected for this purpose on what it was collected for from everyone who paid it in their taxes, I think we do at least need to get quotes from somewhere else if we don't hear anything by the workshop meeting. Because even at that point, even if we do then, we're gonna have to review it, we're gonna have to go through the contract, and we're not gonna get a contract till June. Potentially to sign, depending on how fast we wanna push that through, if we even get the financials in time. But I'm open to other.
So, to be clear here, there's no indication that they're not performing their responsibility in providing emergency services to members of town. They've been making the calls. There are a lot of volunteers that are currently working. I do agree that we still have the responsibility to have a contract in place, to understand what the projected needs of the squads are, and to make sure that when we're collecting taxes that, you know, it's the right amount and that it's being used properly. But they are making the calls, so this is not like a non-performance. It's also not something where, I mean, if we were to talk to another agency, they still have a certificate of need to be able to provide services. They would still be responding to calls. So I want this to work. I hear all of you saying that we want this to work. It's frustrating that we can't get this information because they have a person, we know the person is capable of doing this, does the work for other EMS agencies. I think we need to contact them and just stress the importance of this. Like, we want this to work. They're doing what they need to do on the care side of it. We just have to figure out the financial side of it.
Are you the liaison?
Yes.
Okay, maybe you say that and say it was discussed that if by the workshop meeting, we don't have an update, it's time to start workshop.
No, we need
We-
we need what
we've communicated.
We've communicated so much with them. And my whole point with this is like, they are making the calls, they are responding. And I appreciate and value it so much with the service that they provide for our town as a hybrid, volunteer paid service. If this was any other contractor with the town though, and they didn't fulfill a whole year's worth of requirements from the contract, that's my issue with what's going on. We have we did not ask for a ton in these contracts as far as reporting. We want a financial report and we want a call report 4 times a year. And to not get a minimum of that all of last year, and then to come and try to sell us and ask us for more money when we still haven't received anything that we've asked for as far as reporting is just, it's hard to think if you think of them as a contractor with a town and not just as emergency services for me to be okay with this in this process of it. I do value it, but it's becoming harder and harder to try to defend and push and wait on this when it's been almost half the year. But yeah, you can have this good, but I tried with Holly, like I called Bobby myself, texted, got Holly the financial report emailed, and there's still, Michael's been trying, like, I don't know what else we could do, the EMS board has been trying, I guess I don't have the answer on how to proceed next, besides making sure we have sales by getting quotes, it's my own.
Yeah, I'll just send another correspondence, saying we had kind of set this workshop meeting as when we really wanted to be able to receive what we needed to move forward from a contract, we just need some communication. But I think if we don't receive that, we do have to have a discussion about what we're supposed to do next, because we collected the taxpayer monies for this district and it's remaining unspent. So, that to me is something that we, if this contract doesn't work out, is there any, I don't know, I guess we will have that conversation on the video.
Yeah, we can wait to see if something happens until then. Okay.
Oops, I put that note on wrong discussion item. Okay, next. So here's zoning map review and zoning code update. So we made some progress on the map at our last meeting. We have a small amount of the map to continue going through. We agreed that once we finish the map, what we'd like to do is have another public session ahead of a public hearing. So sort of release a proposal. It would not be necessarily an official draft. I don't know how we would do that, but that's a question for you, Mary Lou. We're redoing the map, and the board would like to have our proposal and present it to the public before we schedule the public hearing. So we would just post it as a information
session,
yeah.
Yeah,
But it wouldn't be a draft law. It would be like a draft.
right, so you would I mean, you'd have like a special meeting with
Yeah.
that being the agenda item.
And that we would just post that, like, as part of the agenda or as part of the meeting notice.
Right.
That document, okay. Right now, I don't know when we're gonna finish that mapping. When are we going to finish that?
Remind me what we had left to review. We did the R5 stuff.
It's everything that's not it's, I think there were a couple parcels we might wanna revisit on 209. And then it's everything that wasn't part of the PL10 grouping. So it's just a review of everything else. And I'm sorry, I'm not prepared to say how many parcels that is, but
No, that's,
it's just like looking at the rest of it and seeing if there were any comments, any information offered from the public, from other parcels throughout town. So we could put it on the workshop agenda. Okay,
Because if we don't, we still have to do the public session. We're still gonna have to do the public hearing process.
What about the audit meeting? It can't be done there.
we try to, well, not that this ever was practiced, but we've said we don't like adding things besides the audit to our audit meetings, and that requires the clerks to come.
I see.
Or we we try to make it like a public, in the past, we've tried to make it like a
I-
public hearing that closes and then we just do the audit.
Let's put it on the workshop agenda. I know it's not popular, but we always have like scheduling additional meetings. I do think, well, we'll talk about this in a bit, but we have too much going on in our meeting agendas. So this is something that we really need to rein in and like come together on priorities, because it's 9:30,
Yeah.
you know.
We have, for the actual zoning code updates, we have done we have reviewed all the comments, right? Like, we could be ready to technically close the public hearing on those potentially and vote on them, or?
For that, we did receive comments. And I think there might be some, you know, what we had agreed on. Kate sent us a packet after our last workshop meeting that had all comments. And we were gonna do a comb through. So it could be like 1-2 hour session. But I think, and ideally, we would all be prepared, like we wouldn't all come not having, and I'm not meaning this in a critical way. I think as board members, we don't always come like having read 300 pages of something. But I think when we go over the zoning code, if we have all reviewed comments and reviewed the draft, I think it would, if we were coming in with like, this is what I want to change, rather than doing
I don't
line by
like the
line.
line by line. Found that process to be
whenever-
dragging and tedious.
but it might be a couple hours of, you know, proposals of things that we wanna change and then discussion.
How much do we have on the workshop meeting right now? Like, just like a count?
Right
Of
now,
items.
we have, all those highway things, which could go fast.
Which we kind of, that would probably.
We have a discussion about constable positions, which is not gonna go fast necessarily, but I don't think it's gonna be 2 hours. Depending on we have the Cohasset Ambulance Improvement District, this process creation, potential transportation appointments. And then any updates of the lease, any updates of any of these things that might come up that we want to discuss. So it's a lot. We have like 15 discussion items right now.
So you have the seeker and the local law. On
Yes.
that Hamlet district.
And if you wanna do the proposed one. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah,
Oh,
the-
there's some of the.
the bid, the highway route bid. So I don't feel like we can add zoning code review. So I feel like that needs to happen at our June meeting. I don't know. Maybe we need to schedule another, I don't know. I'd really like to get this done. It's looming. Those are our heads.
June meeting.
And
Why
it's
don't we
called
do
the
the June
June
business meeting and then we only do minimum resolutions at that meeting? Not like the normal, like beginning of the, and once when we get into like this normal discussion, unless there's something time sensitive, we just go right into it and we know that we come prepared, cause that gives us all like 3 weeks to review all the comments.
Okay, you guys better be prepared, okay?
I will be prepared.
Okay,
I have very high expectations.
I really agree all that.
So let's try to do this. I'd like to check in at our workshop meeting, I'm getting used to, I'm still getting my feet under me and I'm like worried about limiting ourselves in terms of a business meeting, but I think also I like the idea of like working on workshop things in a workshop meeting and having resolution in a business meeting. And right now we are doing like more workshopping in our business.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite.
So I want to say yes, but I also want to be able to just check in again at our workshop meeting and make sure that still feels good. Okay. Board vacancies. Okay, this is the town board vacancy. I was being superstitious. I didn't want to put it on there. How do you guys want to go about filling the town board vacancy?
But we have to get applications, don't you think?
I don't think I guess they took the applications. Me personally, as someone who's gone, as we've all gone through elections, I see it as
Actually,
almost like
like.
if anyone wants to throw their hat in the ring and their name out, we can have an interview process to go through it for us all to get to meet them and like talk with them. But I don't know that we should like advertise and be like, hey, seeking applications for town board member. I don't know, I've just never.
I feel like we
It's just a better
should, don't we
process.
want everyone, because how else are we gonna know if someone wants to throw their hat?
I mean,
So we have gone through this before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And.
That's how I
Yeah,
got
Kate,
involved
how
in the
did it
town, you
happen?
guys. You don't know that, do you?
The town board did put out that looking for letters of interest for anyone to fill the vacancy. And they took the top 5 of the top 5, they decided to hold interviews with those 5, and then they decided to go down to 2. Then from that 2, they made them like that.
I answered that call. I applied when that happened, and then I got on the CBA because I was not appointed. Because I had never been to a town meeting before.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's why I thought it's someone who would be able to come in for only like 6 months of a term. People who pay attention to town business will know there's a vacancy. So to me, it should be someone who is aware of the happenings in the town to be able to fill in and who at least somewhat pays attention to what we do here, because 6 months is not that long, but at the same point, if it's someone who does maybe know as much as what the town board does or what we've been up to lately, then it's also only 6
No,
months.
I see what you're saying. Like
Well,
if you say
you
on
know,
these
like-
meetings, we're missing a town board person, someone who watches the meetings will come, but isn't there like one person on this meeting?
No, you can watch it on YouTube without
Oh, okay.
people, without us seeing it.
There are people interested.
And I know that there's already people interested, that's
what
why
makes me feel like we should just do some kind of a process, because if there are people I don't know.
I mean, but we don't have to, we can do whatever we want, that's the thing, we don't have to follow a process or give it, we can just put a name out there if we want to.
I see.
You know, we're not hold tight to the process.
Yeah.
No, you could do whatever you want.
But that's been
We
like the
get to
theme
make
of the
it.
meeting is like that we have a lack of process.
Yes, yeah, that's the.
And that we want to not be like that anymore, so.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I'm happy to do a process.
But there are people interested. If there was no one interested, I'd be like, okay, let's appoint whoever's interested. But it sounds like there are multiple people.
So I think just, do you wanna add anything to the conversation? Like,
Well, I can speak after you.
great.
Did you want to have the last word?
No, I don't wanna have last word. Okay, from my perspective, we have not solicited anything yet because the vacancy just happened. So I would like us to say publicly what we would like interested persons to do in order to be considered for the seat. And I think what that means is we have to say publicly what people who are interested in this, filling this seat should send a letter of interest and we could ask for a resume, we could ask for some references. Like whatever we can decide on that. I think that should be probably an easier discussion, but I just really believe, we do not have to follow a process. Somebody could just actually not say somebody right now. We could just vote on them right now. Like we could do that. I have not talked to anyone about this, so I wouldn't personally feel comfortable on voting on anyone right now. But I just think that it's the most equitable thing to do is to publicize what we would like people to do if they're interested and have it be something that is made public so that, because even if someone does know there's a vacancy, they don't know how to tell us that they're interested. So I want them to be able to tell us. And in order to do that, we have to publicize it. So I think for me, that's like bare minimum. But then in addition to that, this is someone who would be filling the vacancy until the end of the year. And then there'll be an election that seat will be on the ballot. And so ideally we would select someone who wants to do that. But the remainder of that term is 3 years. So, there's the two parts is we have the ability to make an appointment for someone who's going to work with us. And we have the ability to do that until the end of the year. But the public is the one selecting the person who will fill out the remainder of the term, which would be the last 3 years of the seat that I just vacated.
So I agree we should advertise. I think we should be explicit first off, I don't think we should require resumes. Not everybody has a
I
resume.
agree.
I don't want to make people make a resume. I do think we should get a letter of interest. I think we should be explicit. They should be substantial, 1 to 2 pages, 2 to 3 pages. And we should say what we want to hear. Like, what are your priorities? What do you want to focus on in the town? And just have a set form so that we don't get a bunch of different stuff. So we're kind of evaluating them on a TV footing. And then I think we should go through a process of figuring out if we want to bring people in for interviews. But that would be my preference, is to have some kind of consistent response from anyone who's interested. So we don't get, somebody sent a paragraph and the person sent 10 pages. But I definitely don't want to make people make resumes.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a requirement.
So one thing that Mary Lou, will you stop me if I'm saying stuff that I shouldn't say? One thing that I'm aware of is that we don't get to decide who's on the ballot, but the deadline for that is like in June, I think. So it's just something we should think about. Like, it might be important for us to make our appointment before that, because if we drag it out, the person who we're interviewing I don't know, I just don't want to create a situation where we're dragging. I just want us to know when our deadline, like, have a goal in
What
mind,
happens?
so that's all. I think that sounds like something.
And I think it's equally important that right now you're a board with an even number of people. And I know Erin, in discussing something earlier on the agenda, you said we may not all agree on things. You have to, I think it's really important that you have a 5-member board so
Yeah.
that you can have a majority vote most of the time, unless someone abstains. So the sooner you fill it, the better.
I think, Kate.
I think we advertise it tomorrow, have them do the day before the workshop meeting, submit the letters to you by the workshop meeting. And if you guys want to take the top 3 and hold interviews at the audit meeting, and then vote somebody in at the June 1st or June meeting.
Yeah, so we should talk about what we want in
Okay.
the letter.
So what,
Yeah.
so, and what are the this would be probably only promoted through our own channels, because probably we won't be able to get it into any of the papers.
You could get it into the frame, and that would be the closest one. The other 2 would, the strong one wouldn't be till next Friday. So we could put it in the Freeman that is secondary company.
We can still put it in Schwann.
You could, it just won't go in until next Friday.
But
then they
stay the
still have-
weekend and write the letter.
Okay, so we
More likely
want
to be-
a letter of interest.
I think you should say like, why are you interested?
Stating.
Right, what you just listed out 3 things, Michael, and I feel like those 3 would be, I don't know about setting page limits, or minimums. I feel like just let them say what they wanna say, however they. Let's say, please extend a letter of interest, letting us know why you wanna do this.
Say approximately
So why,
1 to 2 pages.
why? And then,
Any experience maybe you have,
That's applicable.
yeah,
to
any relevant experience.
relevant.
but also, what are your priorities?
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanna know, I mean, I can ask this in an interview, but I guess I think it's really good to read about how people view themselves in a collaborative setting, or how,
How do you
I don't,
work in a group environment?
but
Yeah, we can't all.
Or
How
like,
do you
what do
wanna
you think
see-
makes a good board member? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. How do you see the town of Rochester, or how would you like to see the town of Rochester develop over the next 20 years? 25 years?
so is this a letter of interest, or these, like,
I think those are 2 categories. Letter of interest questions, and then what we wanna ask in interviews. Is that what you're saying?
I just feel like this is a lot, I feel like a letter of interest is usually like open, where you just ask for a letter of interest, and I think if we wanna require specific things, that's like a application.
Yeah, that's how I kind of feel. Like, if we wanna put bullet points in the advertising, like, please try to include your history in the town of Rochester, anything of significant importance that you want us to know that would aid us in selecting you. And then, like, it should be like more of very. I think again, like, too specific, it's getting too tight.
Well, sorry.
No, go.
I wouldn't disqualify anyone who doesn't want to answer them. I think it's helpful to give people a sense of what is a letter of interest? Like, what are the types of things that we're gonna be evaluating? I think we could say, possible topics could include these.
Yeah,
20 things,
I think
just to help them.
I was about to be like very sassy, okay. I was gonna say, we can just say Google letter of interest. No, I think letter of interest, and then maybe what we should say, how about this? The town of Rochester Town Board is accepting letters of interest from individuals who would like to be appointed to the town board.
We
Should probably put in there eligible.
Yeah.
From.
Yes,
yeah.
That's the point. Eligibility.
Eligible residents, not person.
To be considered, please submit a letter of interest by 3 p.m. on May 15th.
You wanna get them in before that?
Well,
We can review them.
If they get them in on the 14th, you can send them out and everybody can look at them before the 15th, so you can determine then who you
So the
want to interview.
14th? And then we're gonna conduct interviews though at the audit meeting. So we would be discussing, we could have an executive session.
Right.
Wanted to whittle down to decide how we want to hold it. So do you still want to do it on the 14th?
Yeah.
3 p.m. on the 14th. So 3 p.m. on the 14th, and we would say via email to the town clerk.
I think that should be the only way we accept them, to make sure we get all of them.
And we would say, so we're just saying, okay, you can send us letter of interest. And then how about this? We say, the town of Rochester Town Board is
Wait, we're not-
interested.
We're not only doing, if somebody wants to hand in a paper copy.
Yeah, they can.
Either the email or in person, I guess. I don't want anything mailed and anyone to say they didn't get a chance. It's-
Right.
They mailed it and we didn't get it before. It was the only thing
Yeah, I just don't wanna require you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they're on the town.
The town of Rochester Town Board is most interested to hear.
Take it most.
But can I make a somewhat crazy suggestion for this? Since we don't really want it to be like an application and such like a formal Q&A answer. Should we maybe just ask people why they're interested and then ask them to describe our community and their eyes to us? And then that can kind of give us a sense, and then we can ask them more role specific or any experiences, like leave it to those 3 questions.
I mean, I honestly think it's best to just say letter of interest and let people.
And you'll
interpret.
know,
Yeah.
once you get them, what it,
I disagree.
I think
What do you want to say?
we're gonna have an interview though.
Why don't we say, you guys, there's like a combination, I think, of what everyone is saying available.
I
Which is
was-
saying like, in order to apply, please submit a letter that includes, detailing why you want to do this. What your vision is for the
Goals
town of
for the future.
Rochester, yeah, or whatever, like top 3. Between what you're saying for like the vision for the community. Your interest in the board, and then some kind of more specific question that Michael has, because I understand what you're trying to say. You're saying like you want an even playing field for which to evaluate everyone, but also that's what we do at the interview. So I don't think it needs to be so specific, but it's like a happy medium. Say like 3 things in there, or 2 things
Yeah,
that we want.
Because we may not opt to interview everyone, so I don't wanna eliminate people because.
They
it's
didn't
just too
include
loose
what
and they
we're
gave us
talking
a
about.
paragraph. But, guess.
So then why don't can we make it more generic than yours of like, can we just say, please include your relevant background, relevant work or volunteer background to being on a town board? And then we can.
And why you're interested.
And why
And
you're
why you're
interested, and why you're filling the vacancy on the town board. And then it's
Okay.
that, and then when they come into the interviews, we can get more specific on like what they see as
Yeah,
the future.
I
and
like that. I like that.
So just like
At
give
least
2
we'll have
points, like
something
we
to
have, like,
about.
these are the 2 requirements, and they're still kind of interpreted, but we at least get a history on people to narrow down.
There's
what we
some
get.
guidelines. It's
Yeah,
some
so that way
guidelines.
someone's that like, cause we know some people just said, I'm interested in joining this board when they send letters, and so to make it more even, it's like, okay, these are the 2 writing prompts, give us history, give us why, and then we can ask the rest of who we narrow it down to from that.
I think that's good.
Is that a good compromise between
Yeah.
everyone?
To apply, send a letter to the town clerk
Please include.
detailing any relevant information.
Any
you know,
relevant
whatever.
background.
Supervisor, are you okay with that?
Detailing any relevant background and why you
Any relevant experience you have that would
are applying.
Yeah, and why you want to.
Why you're
serve.
interested.
Why you're
in
in
service.
or serve something.
And then at the workshop meeting, we should decide, I'm saying it like I'm gonna be there, but what the interview questions that will make it more streamlined with the initial questions that we were brainstorming for the interviews. Like, what are your priorities?
And do you know the shoes you will be filling?
Yeah, and what would you be, are you gonna be interested in running?
I don't think you can ask that.
Oh, okay.
because-
No, I don't think that. To me, that doesn't.
We can't get into the politics of it.
No, but that doesn't, like, someone signing up for 6 months compared to asking someone to run a campaign and do all of that together, two-way different.
I think
things.
the point I was trying to make is, I think it'd be better for us to be aware of those, just in terms of like the individual having the opportunity to make that decision. And, okay, so I think
Oh, do we have to have a resolution?
well, I hope not, because I just have little notes scribbled down. So I think we can just, we don't have to do a
No,
resolution.
no, you have to find somebody. I don't think that needs to be a resolution.
So, yeah, what, if we're gonna advertise it though,
Don't we have to authorize the supervisor?
we have to authorize me to,
Yeah, you can do a resolution authorizing the supervisor to prepare a notice for letters of interest for town board and to request that the town clerk publish same.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. As Mary Lou stated.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstain. Okay, great. So now at our audit meeting, we're having potentially a discussion about court security. We are doing, that's at our workshop. So at our audit meeting, we're doing the security discussion and interviews and auditing those. Okay.
I think if we pick a top 3 out of the applications to interview and then do that, because that we know we can be like, oh, that's only 45 minutes, 15 minutes each, and then do the meeting for court security, just to make it an easy time frame, because we don't know how long that other meetings go. Would be an easy way to arrange that for time.
I put this on just, I don't even think we were gonna advertise the vacancies and try to get, more appointments. I wanted to ask in terms of, do you guys want to interview someone every time we're filling a vacancy?
As opposed to getting the application and appointing them.
I mean, I think it depends.
Yeah, I think it depends, if like a recommendation comes from the department or committee to us and we review like their, then we just still have them submit the like normal fillable form online and like at least see their information for us. I'm not opposed to not.
I mean,
giving them ours.
I think
Kate,
planning board,
do you
Go ahead.
remember, it seems to me that years ago, there was a resolution setting forth the process. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Or could
I
you,
was just
could you
thinking that
find it?
myself. I don't know if there was a resolution or that's just the protocol of how they just followed. Like that's kind of how the precedence was and that's how they just continued it. But I kind of have it down to the year that that would have taken place.
Okay,
Look back. Because that's when it moved also into going into executive session interviews. So
So, yeah, cause I feel like zoning board of appeals, planning board, board of assessment review also, I think those we should interview.
Ethics.
yeah, anything with decision-making power,
Yeah.
rather than just advisory power.
and I think if we have one vacancy, should be our policy to conduct interviews. If there's multiple vacancies and there's someone that expresses interest, we should look at the.
Yeah, Kate, if you could see if it's actually a resolution, because if it was, you'll have to repeal that and set a new one.
I'm sorry, you're saying with the advisory committees, if there's only one applicant for one vacancy. what we-
We can review, no, if there's multiple vacancies and we have an interested person, we can just look at their letter of interest and appoint without having to do an interview. If there's one spot open and there's multiple people interested, we should interview.
Okay. And then one of the things we talked about last week is having a checklist of eligibility requirements for each of the boards and commissions to make sure that when we're making those appointments, we're doing it for eligible candidates. I think that's just, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think,
And
we
we
talk about maybe doing a waiver for people to
affidavit,
sign
it would be
during,
an affidavit.
or an affidavit, yeah.
Is that what you'd like to do? Because we can draft that up. We're just gonna, I wanted to make sure this has come up. We actually had someone for another board that we interviewed that is not eligible for that role. So it came up again. It came up recently, so.
I think it'd be important whether we put it on the application part or like I'm talking about like the fillable ones that you made. Or it's during the interview process, but it need like before we get in, like it should be at the start of the interview then, if that's what we're gonna do, is have them actually sign an affidavit saying that they are eligible to be on this role. Like it should happen before we've already gone through the whole process and think we have someone and then
I think if
we,
the
they're not
application
eligible.
stage.
Yeah, I think the application would be better.
So-
Waste people's time.
It sounds like then what we need for the different, because everything has different requirements, like not everything, but there are different laws over decision-making boards versus like, so. Yeah, so I think if we had an application that's an actual form that maybe has like a signature, like a check, I can send it to Mary Lou, but like, this is, it states what the requirements are and then they can say. And I think it's also more transparent because that hasn't been a part of our process at all.
Yeah.
And like, I feel really strongly that like, that's not something that we have ever really like put in any appointment process. And like, it's important that we are really transparent with people because I think it's really easy to not be paying attention to some of those things, and just like miss it. So I think if we do it that way, then it communicates what the requirements are and people have the opportunity to offer that.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll make it, I might need to do that as like a fillable PDF with a signature, with a, where someone can.
Oh, yeah. with
Yeah,
this.
Yeah. Okay, I will try to have, and then the interview, I'll try to have a draft. I have the form that I made with the interview questions. So we just need to add the statement and then I will try to have that for the workshop meeting. I don't think that that'll be a long. Okay. And then we'll have that for the town board appointment, because then we want people to, that one gets verified. Okay. So we have three more items. I'm gonna put next the reval. I think, okay, I wanna give you, did you guys have a chance to look at that? The reval
This is the
proposal?
same,
The GAR
this is a new
proposal?
one, right? This isn't the same
We received,
that we were presented with during budget season last year.
no, this one's been updated. It got forwarded to us like maybe a month ago, and I just included it with the backup today. What I would like to do is let you know what our assessor's input is,
What are we looking at?
and then
The one that
No.
says GAR at the
it would,
top,
no,
like
it's gonna be in your email.
Oh,
Can you
I didn't
access
ask
your
her
email?
to print. No, but it's okay. I think I probably saw it earlier.
I haven't been able to get my email, but I have the packet on my.
But that's okay. Just keep talking and I can
So, what I just wanted to do, let's try to, it would be great to make a decision on this month. I wanted to, I mistakenly left this off the agenda, even though I had. I wanted to let you know what our assessor's request was based on this, and then we can come back at our workshop meeting to talk about whether or not we want to move forward with this proposal. So, Jeremy wanted to convey that the goals that he sees for this reval in our town are data collection, photos for every property. By New York State law, it's required that there be a photo on file for every property that has been taken within the last 6 years. And he ran a report for me on my request that we have only 1,000 photos, 1,000 properties photographed.
Properties or
Parcels.
buildings,
Parcels.
like
I
an
think.
aerial photo?
Well, we only have 1,000, period, that have been taken in the last 6 years, which means we need like 3,500.
But it's an
Even
aerial,
more than that.
it's an aerial photo?
It
they're
can be, well, okay, so that's one. The second, I'll get to that. The second is, correction of misclassification of lands. So this is like wasteland, residual, undeveloped woodland, forestry. So these are like the classifications that they use to help with, to determine assessment. And he said that they're really all over the place and it can make a huge difference in what an assessed value is versus like what it sells for. So like, for example, wasteland can sometimes be like 500 an acre, but residual might be 3,500. That was the example he used. And so those are the main goals that Jeremy wanted to highlight. He said that what he would like to see is street level imagery. So aerial photos obviously are easy, but he would like to see more street level imagery. And that's the main thrust of his request, is that we consider the additional in the back of the proposal are options that come at an additional cost from the quote. And one of them is digital photographs, which is street level imagery on parcels with structure. So like where there's a parcel with a structure, he would like to see street level images of those rather than just aerial. And but that, in order for them to do that level of photography, it's 25 to 35,000 additional dollars. So that was just like the main. We did talk a little bit. He had a conversation with them to make sure that he'd be able to review everything. They also want to have the main communication point for informal reviews, which is something that the assessor typically does. They want to be this kind of the main source of contact for that. That's when like someone calls up the assessor after receiving an initial assessment and is like, hey, I think you got this wrong. And it's before the assessments are set. And then they can have a discussion about it and then they'll do an investigation and set it. So GAR would like, during the reval, they want to be the main points, but he wanted to make sure that if someone really insisted on coming to the assessor, that wasn't going to be a problem. And they said that no, but they just want to encourage that sort of single, so that things are consistent. And that's basically it. He was highlighting, some things about the reval and about the proposal that he thought were particularly good, but the main thing that he'd like to see is that we request the additional digital photography service.
Do we have other other quotes, or does this fall under professional
It's-
services, so we don't need to follow?
Yeah, so this is professional services, so we don't need to. We can, I think what we decided last month was we wanted to move forward with seeing a proposal. So that's where we're at here.
That's what I thought.
So we can move forward with this proposal. We could, have feedback with this proposal, whatever. Or we could decide that we want to see other proposals. This is the firm that, our assessor would really like to see us use. But just for the, as a consideration.
Is this, are we time sensitive on this at all to start?
Yes, well, basically this would start next March. But in terms of this is a multi-year process, and I know they have other towns, so I think it's time sensitive in that way. It'd be good to put it in motion.
Yeah, but it's
Just
not like we
predict it.
don't decide, like it's say we don't go through and approve this and get language back from like a contract with them after we approve this or something, like say that doesn't happen till like August. It's not like where we have to have stuff done by like we have to have certain things authorized by certain date for others.
I
Like,
think
you know
it
what I
just
mean? Like,
means if we want,
it just
so,
means the process starts and
Right.
like get extended past 2026 potentially, depending.
right, and there is a little bit, I think they have a certain capacity of
Yeah.
And then in terms of Jeremy too, one of the things we talked about is how he doesn't want all the towns to be doing revals all at the same time, and right now there are revals planned. So this right now to have us do it here fits in really well with what other towns have planned for him as a assessor being.
I thought this was in, I guess, tandem with that role potentially changing from part-time to full-time, because this wouldn't be possible without that.
Afterward.
Afterward, so but while it's happening, he can still handle the capacity with the hours currently. And it's not like we have to like decide, that's I guess why I was worried about the time set, if we had to decide that with this.
That we don't have to decide those points with this. I think if we are doing the reval, it's good to know like when it's gonna happen so we can plan
Yes, yeah.
for what's, what.
You said that wasn't required like next year, like we have to like as January change that position.
No, I mean, this isn't
Try to
gonna,
make a decision
Yeah.
this quickly.
we're not going to have, basically it's, that all starts kind of in 26.
That's what I thought from based off this, but.
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure.
So
I think sorry, go ahead.
I think it's really important that we do a reval right now. Like I like that we initiate the process. I do think it's really important.
I'm curious about the unique and highly complex parcels section. It's just the wording of it, it seems weird, like they're gonna identify them and then quote us what it's gonna cost to do each of the complex parcels. I don't know what the effect, I can think of 4 or 5 that are probably considered highly complex. And it's not clear to me, is that mandatory? Like, do they say it's gonna be $20,000 this parcel and then we're just obligated to pay that, or can we say, no, we don't wanna pay for that? Don't leave that parcel out of your evaluation.
I can,
If not, I'd like to have an understanding, like, what do you consider a highly complex parcel? Can you give some representative examples and what's like an average? Are we talking like it's gonna be $500 a parcel or $5,000?
Okay, I can ask that.
I would also just, for myself, and if the rest of the board doesn't agree with me, we don't have to, but I would like to see another proposal, just because I do think it is good to have, you know, overview and be able to compare two things, even though I know this is the one, and like, obviously, we should try to go with what our department, what the person who's doing this, our professional that we've chosen is recommending to us, but I do, just for comparison's sakes on price points and things like that, would appreciate another one, another quote from a similar company, if there's one available to get us, but if the rest of you don't want that, then I won't hold tight on it.
Just in this quote, she has a timetable that's actually starting this summer.
Yes.
Starting this month.
Yeah, she has it starting this month with informational things. So just, you know, however you guys are most comfortable doing it, of course. But if you're getting other proposals in, which is absolutely fine, and I totally understand what Charlotte's saying, it may put this off really another year just because of the timing with when things get done.
I'm just wondering, like, I mean, for like, maybe for a workshop meeting, and then we can just vote on this, I would just like to see one to have something I've never paid or had to look into doing a whole reval on a town, so it's not something in my wheelhouse that I'm familiar with, so having another thing to compare it to would make me feel better about approving it, but if everyone else is okay with what's been presented to us, I'm also fine with that.
Well, why don't we do this? Cause I don't think we're ready to vote on it tonight. I'll reach out to GAR. I'll ask for clarification about the unique highly complex parcels. And I'll let her know that like the soonest we'd be making a decision is May 15th. She knew that it was on our, they communicated that it would be presented in early May, so. And then I can see if it's even possible to get something from this. I don't even know, I'd have to find other, firms that are available to do, like, I would just have to find them and contact them and see if they could. I think they had talked to Jeremy, so I'll just see if it's possible to get something before the workshop.
Yeah, if it is, I would like to see one. If not, I can do my own research and see if there's any municipalities around us that have had a similar process. To see around what they've been able to do.
Yeah.
I don't have much time to do some research on that. I just, this is just like not in. So I don't even own property, so this is not my house.
Okay, and then, Emily, we wanted to talk about, so there is a local law. We had talked about this like a while ago, Mary Lou.
Yes,
It was April 2022.
we know because Charlotte was pregnant.
We had a draft of the entire local law in front of us that Marbletown adopted and uses, and their town board members do attend via Zoom and vote. So
But
I'm for it.
but wasn't there a requirement that it had to be like extreme
Yes.
circumstances?
Yes, it's gotta be extreme
Definition of that.
emergencies, yep.
So it's
and
not
it-
just I'm out of
and-
town.
Yeah, but
Right.
is a town supervisor being vacant an emergency or no?
I mean, yeah, because we wouldn't have had the voting.
No,
power.
it's an emergency,
Like, I see
not
that.
for the board, it's an
Yeah.
emergency for the board member who cannot be present. And one of the things is childcare or some taking care of being ill or someone at home being ill.
Exceptional circumstances, like an emergency sounds like someone's dying. To me, it sounds a little severe, but I feel like there's a lot of other language to imply if the goal is to say between you're on vacation for fun and voluntarily and like someone's dying. There's like language that can be like, we don't want people to abuse this, but we live in a world that we have a lot of meetings, we have a lot of things to vote on. You can be like a committed person who lives here and be somebody who can just call in maybe, and like you can still get a lot done. that way.
I mean, there are some guidelines in this, in the New York state law, so.
Can we,
And-
can you send it out, Mary Lou? Do you still have it?
I think actually Mike had done it. Mike had prepared it. He took the county law, so I can look and see if I have it on my computer. I mean, I'm sure I do.
I was more thinking about, because it was something that the governor did during COVID. What was the New York State?
Well,
They,
during COVID, there was executive orders which allowed us to have all those remote meetings. That expired long ago. And then the legislature put in a law that says if a town by local law wants to allow for remote video, not phone call, video, because you have to be able to see the person, participation in those extreme or emergency, can't remember the wording, circumstances, a town can do that. You can do it for your board. You can do it for the planning board, the zoning board. I mean, it would have been great for the Board of Assessment Review if it's an emergency situation. So I can send you the state law, and I can also look for the law that was discussed by the town board.
I think it was Marbletown's Mary Lou, if I remember right.
Well,
That would-
Marbletown probably also took it from the county.
Yeah.
Mike had used the counties as a sample. I remember because at one point it said county, and I said, we have to change that to town.
Yeah,
But
I
Wawarsing
remember.
has one. Wawarsing put it in place also.
I remember discussing, the nuances of what is considered emergency or extenuating and
Mhm.
whatever word they use, and I don't think that's defined by the state. So
No,
to
they
me,
give
it's like-
examples, but they don't make it all encompassing. They
Yeah,
say that
so-
the town board gets to determine what an emergency is.
Right, so the local law, we could write it in such a way, and then I don't know if that is subject to challenge if decisions are made and people don't think it qualifies but
Mhm.
that's what I'd be curious about.
So I'll send you the state law and the local law that you guys had been looking at, the proposed local law.
Mary Lou,
Yes.
could you potentially see if there's anything that's like allows us, if we have a majority in person that allows us to allow one member to be virtual?
I think
That's
there
really
is.
That's-
hard.
That's part of it. You have to have a
Yeah.
quorum at your place in order for someone to be virtual. You can't even consider
Oh,
it
anyway,
unless
that's
you have a
already-
quorum. Right, so you couldn't
Okay,
have,
fine.
two
All
of you
of us
there
couldn't
and
be-
3 people virtually. You need at least 3 people sitting at this table.
And I think, I imagine part of the spirit of it is to prevent people is to ensure that people are being represented by people who are here. That someone who is living in Florida is not representing people who are here, right? Isn't that like that's why they're like, don't abuse it, make sure it's certain circumstances and that the majority of people are here. I don't know, I think that
I could not tell you what their thinking was at the time.
I think
maybe I'm
there's a
thinking of
strong historical root in presence and
Yeah.
like being present for meetings, for decisions, for like just like 3 of us we try not to be together if there's 3 of us in a non-board setting so that, you can't. So I feel like it's just this really strong, like that's the way it has been and like not wanting to deviate from that.
Yeah, and Emily, I had sent you that Department of State memo guidance, and at the very beginning, there's like a quote from a case which says it's very important basically for your citizens to be able to look you in the eye and see what you're doing while you're making your decisions.
But then you
And
think, well, like, if someone's pregnant at home, or if someone's sick, like, and has COVID, or if someone's like, has an an immunity, I don't know, there's so many like issues.
Right, and
About
back
that.
when they first made these laws, there wasn't video conferencing.
Yeah, exactly. Times have changed.
So I'll send you guys all that information. I'll also send you the Department of State memorandum that I sent to Emily this morning.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, I had this is something I think what I'd like to work on when we have a full board more, but just meeting cadence and upcoming meeting goals, like I'm feeling like there's too much on our agendas. I would like us to be able to focus on things and finish them. So it's just a goal that I have, and I think in order to do that, we will all need to come together with our priorities. So we're gonna have to have a conversation, hopefully with a full board. We have a new board member. What are our priorities to get done this year? And then look at our required priorities to get done this year and the way we want to do those things, and then start making decisions about like what we can and cannot take on in like right now, everything feels like something we're supposed to be figuring out. But or maybe we're okay with 5-hour meetings, but the way we had moved to a place where we were having 4 to 5 hour meetings a month. And I just want to be starting to think about what's our capacity as a board and focusing on things that are really important and doing a really good job of those and a thorough job, and then finishing them. That's a goal that I have. So we're not going to fix that today, but I wanted to bring that up, and I would like everyone to start thinking about that. Right now, it feels like have to do everything and it feels a little overwhelming. And I just want that to be a goal, that we sort of adopt a meeting cadence where our workshop is where we're workshopping, and that what we're working on hopefully goes onto a business meeting agenda. So if there's resolutions or whatever needs to happen officially, that goes on. And our audit meeting is for auditing the bills. So like, I would really like to see us get to that so that it's a more focused and like intentional about what's going on those agendas.
Yeah.
Okay, great. With that, we have an executive session that's next. But Charlotte prepared the in memoriam for us. So do you wanna?
Yeah, I can read them and I'll give them. I'll make a motion to enter executive session in memoriam of Larry Schufelt, Sarah Langer, Marcia Silverman McCabe, Lovey Dorothy Redding, Donna Mae Lyons, Alan Roy Mansfield, and besides Sarah Langer, who was a classmate of mine, I also just have a very personal connection to Virginia Behringer, who helped raise not only her own 8 children, but 10 other children from my neighborhood in the boonies of Kerhonkson out of a single wide trailer. So, and then to all of those who lost from COVID, and then those who we continue to lose from gun violence and more. Second.
Do you want to do that with the executive session?
Right,
or
don't we
just-
motion?
We usually say
Okay, we
that
do
we're
it
going
as
to adjourn in this memory, and then we make the motion for executive session.
Then that way.
Okay, that way it's not,
I
yeah.
couldn't remember what we normally do when it's this.
Okay. So, great. So we want to enter into executive. Does someone want
Yes,
to?
I'll make a motion now to enter into executive session at
10:25.
10:25.
Second.
You want to list the as presented?
Oh, as for purposes as presented on the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay.
Do you need me for anything in executive session?
No.